What's happening, y'all? What's happening? This is your boy Gunner Hookah. You already know what time it is. We are here for a one heck of a conversation. Be sure you come and like and subscribe. Definitely hit that like button on the way in the door. I appreciate everybody coming through. My guest will be with me shortly. This is going to be a really heavy topic, a conversation that we may have in little groups, but it's time to really have these serious conversations. I know a lot of times we like to have a good time on here, and I'm all for it. All day, every day, twice on Sunday. I love being in a great mood. But this one right here is conversation that needs to be had. Yeah, it's needed. Let me give a shout out to everybody who's in the chat right now. I'll make sure I show love to everybody. Diego, what's up? I appreciate it, man. Thank you for that. Old school, what's happening? Carbon Q's in the house, baby. 2A Dreyway, what's up? Skilly, what's up? My man Coy, what's happening? 2A Dreyway, what's good? What's good? Hot Tub, my man, what's good? Darling Ebony is in the building. And A. Cart. I saw Ewan up in here. Jason Ewan, what's up? I see you. Siege. OG, triple OG. Jason Ewing, what's happening? Ray Official, what's going on? Gorilla Nation. Big Drake, what's going on, man? Rodney, what's happening, brethren? Ramsey J, what's going on? What's going on? I see you in here. Jason, I said you were ready. Patrick, what's up? I'll see you again, Jason. What's up? Patrick, give me odd man. What's going on? This is going to be a heavy one right here. It's going to be a heavy one. Let's talk about it. It's going to be one of those episodes. Very first episode, you know, I'm always bouncing around. I got freestyle stuff going on and all this good jazz. Daughter Ebony in the building. It's crazy. So be sure to hit that like button. Please hit that like button. So how's everybody's weekend been? Or weekend so far? Everybody's week. It's chilly out there. Hope you're staying bundled up. If you are in cold weather, and for those you are in warm weather, I hope you're staying safe too, because you can be just as dangerous in the hot weather as it is in this cold weather. So definitely stay safe out there, people. It's gonna be something special. It's going to be something special. Nice, Diego. Nice. Busy and hectic. That's all right. TK, what's happening? That's all right. So I'll just wait for a few more people to get up in here. Let's get squared away on these Lizikes. You know what I mean? Be sure to hit that button. Need those buttons to be hit. So we're going to make sure we good. Let's see. Hold on 1 second. Let's do that. All right. Likes are good. And I even like myself. Shoot. That's how we do. What's going on, E-Money? What's happening? Shoot. Everybody doing their thing. This is also a wonderful community. Like I said, we have a lot of good conversations. Sometimes it be, sometimes it be a little baby smoke, little baby heat from time to time, but it'd be all in good fun. But this one right now is good conversation to have. I want to share a video with y'all before I bring my guest on, kind of get you to think. What's going on, $2? To kind of get you prepared for the type of conversation that we're going to have, the type of conversations that we do have, but not on the scale that we need to have them. And that dude D, what up? So our Scott, what up, man? So while we get people in, hit that like button. Let me get a few more people in before I actually share that video. We had, 26 people. Get about a few more in here. It might be a small, but yet mighty. Reach out to share this joint. Get as many people as you can on here and check us out, because it's gonna be a conversation that needs to have. Oh, Big Dre, I hope you feel better, brother. I'm glad you tuning in. Well, yeah, I understand. Sometimes you gotta take that time off, brother, because life will get you. It'll beat you up. So I'm just glad to be a part of this and being able to engage in these type of dialogues. So it's gonna be something special. So while we got people coming in, we looking kind of good. I like what's going on right now. People, as you coming in, grabbing your seat, grab you some hot chocolate, or get you a drink, whatever, some wine, smoke you a cigar, whatever you need to do to get relaxed. Get ahead, get relaxed. So it's a few more minutes, and we'll get the ball rolling. Hey, darling Ebony, you wanna come up in here? Why don't you come up in here real quick, darling Ebony? Go hit that link I gave you. Come on in and say what's up to the people. Locked in, what up? Jay Great, what up? So, as you already know, in the chat, in my title, in the caption, it's Let's Talk About It with Darling Ebony. Without further ado, I'm going to bring Miss Darling Ebony in. What's going on, sister?
What's going on?
How you say you're a little tired, a little exhausted. How's the weather where you at in Ohio? I know it's probably cold and snowy and gross.
It's ridiculously cold. Mm-hmm. It's Arctic, and I still have not gotten all the snow out of my driveway.
Oh, bless. Mm-hmm. Nice. Always a good time. Yeah, it got down to when I was out earlier. It was between 18 degrees when I left, and it was like as high as 25, and no telling what it is now. It's probably low 20s or high teens.
Yeah, we're in the teens, and ice everywhere. I've been taking a hoe and an ice pick and chugging away at it and not making much progress.
Do you have like any salt, rock salt and stuff like that?
Yeah, it's not helping. It's too cold.
Oh, bless. Shoot, man. Yeah, we got it, but it's not as bad for me. It didn't have as much snow on my driveway, so that helped. It just got really cold. So it's just a really good time. It's a great time to be indoors if you can be. For those who are out there, definitely be safe. She Fires, what's happening? QB, what's good? I'm loving it, man. People in here now. $2, my man. So this conversation that we're going to have is Let's Talk About It. After I show this video, I will let you know what we're about to talk about, because this is definitely going to be open forum. Darling Ebony, you're definitely going to start us off, drive the bus after I show this video that you sent me, and we're going to talk about it. Conversation that needs to be had often, and we'll see what goes on. Let me go ahead and get this video going and let the people see what we're talking about.
Okay.
That's not what I wanted. Little technical difficulties, always technical difficulties. Always technical difficulties. Yep. Once again, that's not what I wanted. Screen. All right, here we go. Let's do it. Here we go. There's video. Let's try this again. So, technical difficulties, y'all. Bear with me. So sorry.
That's right. Tonight, there's a growing demand for answers in Peter Spencer's homicide. According to state police, a 25-year-old man was taken into custody and multiple guns were found on scene. But as of now, no charges have been filed.
We can't help but wonder if there was some racial animus here, and if this possibly could be a hate crime.
BPEP CEO Tim Stevens talked with us after demanding an immediate investigation and prosecution into the killing of 29-year-old Peter Spencer, a Jamaican immigrant and Pittsburgh resident.
I found this story beyond tragic. We decided that we needed to send a letter to some of the key powers that be in Pennsylvania.
State police say Spencer, who had a fiancée and unborn child, was found shot on Carl's Road in Rockland Township in the early morning hours of December 12th.
We're talking 6 bullets into the chest, 2 into the buttocks, and 1 we have a different opinion, either through the mouth or from the neck and out of the mouth.
According to Stevens, Spencer's fiancée dropped him off to go hunting in Venango County with a man he had visited in the past and several other white men.
This time, he was taken directly into the woods and not to this person's mother's home. To the fiancée, she didn't feel totally comfortable with that.
Less than 24 hours later, when she went to pick up Spencer, he was dead. Stevens says the man who was taken into custody claimed self-defense.
Which we think is defenseless defense. An unexplainable defense.
So far, police have only released an initial report and did not include any details about the suspect or possible motive. But BPEP is calling for justice, saying the self-defense narrative is unacceptable, offensive, and beyond troubling.
This is serious, and people need to know they can't do this in Pennsylvania, and hopefully anywhere in the nation.
I reached out to the Venango County District Attorney about this case. He said it was an ongoing investigation and he had no comment at this time. Meanwhile, Spencer's family has set up 2 different GoFundMe pages, one for legal fees and the other for funeral expenses. We have that information up on our website at WTAE.com. Reporting live tonight, Ashley Zoka, Pittsburgh's Action News 4.
So here's the time we need to talk about it. You guys seen it. 100% facts. It was definitely not self-defense. I don't think, well, I can't say don't think anybody would. And there's that too. But there's the spin on it. And I'm going to let darling Ebony take it from here because we're going to talk about it. Take it away, sis.
All right. Hookah, thank you for having me on. I sent Hookah a message, was it yesterday on Instagram? Yes. And I said, you know, this is someone who seems to be a part of the Black 2A community. I don't know if he ever frequented any of our channels or you all's channels or whatnot, but he was someone who obviously enjoyed hunting, had done it before. And I just want to give you a little bit more information first than what the news report gave. So his family, that news report came out on December the 28th. He died on December the 12th. So we're talking 16 days later. Now we're talking over 6 weeks later, and nobody has been arrested. No charges have been filed. Dr. Cecil Wecht was hired by the family. He is a very prominent coroner and medical examiner. He was the coroner for JFK. He was the coroner for John Benet Ramsey. And one other high-profile case, Elvis Presley. And after looking at the evidence, he has said that this young man was hunted down. And yet no one is charged. And the story, a lot of people around here are comparing it to Ahmaud Arbery. And, you know, mind you, we've had enough trauma in our community. It definitely could be compared to Ahmaud Arbery. But I'm also wondering about Tamala Horsford. It was a sister who went to a sleepover, and she was the only Black woman there. And she ended up looking like had been brutally beaten. And that was 3.5 years ago, a little over 3 years ago. And no one has been arrested. And I noticed that we have a Black 2A community. Excuse me. And I think a lot of us might not know about this case. And maybe that's the reason why we're not talking about it on any of our channels. But we have a Black 2A community, in part because we're not always welcome in the larger 2A community. And let's just be honest. There was a major organization in which the leader of that organization had a lot to say in defense of George Zimmerman, but wanted our dollars, but at the same time had nothing to say about Philando Castile. And my purpose of asking Hookah to do this live was to raise awareness in the Black 2A community, to ask other YouTubers to mention this on their channel, and to help the family with the GoFundMe page so that they can continue to get the medical examiners, the experts necessary in order to find out what happened to their loved one. He was about to be a father. He had a fiance. He clearly loved guns, shooting, hunting. In essence, he is one of us. And if we stay silent when things like this happen, when we specifically know that the larger community is not going to speak up for us, then what exactly are we doing? So that was the reason why I contacted Hookah on the phone. So, thoughts, Hookah?
Thoughts? You already know. I love, that's why with the 2A community, there are certain things that I like about it. I like the fellowshipping. I like the common entities of firearms because that's the initial core lure of it all. But as we know with anything, any other institution, any other socioeconomic entity, I guess for lack of a better phrase, we're going to have some problems. Mm-hmm. We are definitely, let's be honest, it's white supremacy is prevalent, right? It's very dangerous because you can't see it, you can't touch it, but you know it's there. What makes white supremacy even more dangerous is that nobody is safe from it. And even worse, anybody can foot soldier it. Anybody. Mm-hmm. Biggest example I can give you of what they call a black white supremacist, and I don't even want to say that because white supremacist is a white supremacist. I don't care what your color is. Tim Scott.
Yep.
Daniel Cameron. I know a few other smaller ones. And even to a degree, some of us that you may know who might be the most woke and most conscience-minded people you know will still spread some white supremacist ideologies, which leads to racism, capitalism, classism. And even though it's a black man, the other part is that he's immigrant. Now, a lot of us in this community, the ones that refer to as ADOS or whatever, will also look down upon immigrants. They may be good with the black part, but the immigrant part is still keeps them in that ideology that they don't belong here.
Yeah.
Right? So we got a lot of work to do on that aspect as well. And until we figure it out, until we understand that we got work to do and we can understand each other and love each other and really be able to listen to each other, this is going to be an ongoing cycle. Mm-hmm. Ongoing, because every time I see these, every time I see it, I think about my son. Think about my family. I think about my brother. I think about myself. I think about a brother on the street. And it hurts to see that when something happens, it's almost like we're like third, fourth, fifth class citizens. We're not even human.
Right.
There it is right there. They didn't see a human out in those woods. And it's constant. This is nothing new. This has been going on for 400 and some odd years. And I think sometimes we kind of get caught up in the fact that because we're doing a little bit better than we were 20 years ago, 50 years ago, 100 years ago, that everything is wonderful. We still got work to do. That's my biggest thing. And with just black people, I'm just going to talk to black people for a second. My non-black people in coalition, I love you, but this is directed to my black people. There is a GoFundMe directed to for the family, so we contribute to any legal fees, any investigation fees. What we need to start doing is making contributions to when we see our people going through it, because the other side does that. The other side takes care of their own for sure, and those in coalition, they take care of theirs. You'll see people getting hundreds of thousands, millions of dollars towards their thing, but we won't give a couple of dollars because I don't know, we got stuff to do, or we got to make these choices. But meanwhile, we got, we got a lot of stuff, but we got to start contributing to our own too. We got to take care of our own.
And you know what, Hookah, not to cut you off, but
No,
I want you to remember that George Zimmerman got over $250,000
Facts.
for his legal fees. And many of them, much of that money came from the larger 2A community.
Right.
Also, you talk about this could be your son, your brother.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely correct. But it also could be your mother, your sister, your wife, your girlfriend. Black women die at the hands of white supremacy too. We almost just as much, but we don't hear about those cases because we have the double whammy of both being Black and women.
So you have the race and gender.
We marched for George Floyd, but nobody, I bet you if you ask most people who Pamela Turner is, they couldn't tell you.
They can tell you.
If we talk about Tamir Rice, but if I say who is Ayanna Stanley Jones, who predated Tamir Rice, nobody knows.
Or Corinne Stephens, or Sandra Bland.
Yeah, people know Sandra Bland, but people don't talk about Tatiana Jefferson, or Rakia Boy, or Renisha McBride. And so we have it's an us thing. And if we're going to talk about white supremacy killing us, we need to talk about it killing all of us, because it's killing the sisters just as much as it's killing the brothers.
100% facts. And the funny thing about white supremacy, it's not even limited to Black.
No.
White supremacy, I used to say this a lot. White supremacy, anybody could be a foot soldier for it, and anybody could be a victim of it, and we see it. But the biggest, number one, obvious victim is people of color, primarily us, right?
Right.
So
I think this story touched me so much because I don't have the luxury of being back in Chicago right now. I am in small town, largely white, rural Ohio, where I grew up. And there have been some amazing people of all races who have invited me to events for shooting. They see me at the range. Oh my God, this girl, she can shoot, whatever. And I've been invited to things. And I could easily go and never be heard of or from again.
Right.
But when things like this happen, if the roles had been reversed and four of us had taken someone from the 2A community who was white out, and that person got killed in such a manner, the entire 2A community would be talking about it, and they would be talking about it in the context of our race. We're animals anyway.
Right.
What would you expect from them?
100%.
You hear that if you frequent the 2A community, even from some of your faves, when we were talking about George Floyd last year, even from some of our faves who we get gun reviews from, you know, they weren't talking about getting guns and getting 2A to protect us from tyranny. They were talking about getting guns and having 2A to protect themselves from us, from our anger, from the protest. Almost like last year, I literally had to stop in 2020 and 2000, early 2021, going to gun reviews, because eventually they would say, well, you need to get a gun because, with all the protests going on and the riots, and, it was almost like the incident started with the protests and the riots instead of what caused it. It's called reactive abuse. Instead of looking at what was the initial spark, you're looking at the reaction. And I was like, I can't do this. And that's actually how I ended up finding you and RGG. I went to 32 Icon because she was really the only one I could listen to. And then I ended up going to RGG's channel. So what I'm saying is, we can appreciate their gun reviews, but realize that they don't necessarily appreciate us.
True.
I don't remember any of them talking about Philando Castile. I hear them, talking about being great patriots in 1776 and fighting tyranny. But when we're suffering tyranny, we're in the wrong. Right. And we're doing it, and they need to be protected from us. So I feel like if we're not going to say anything and support in these instances, when we don't have any support anywhere else, then what exactly are we doing?
This is 100% facts. Oh, absolutely. We got work to do on all fronts. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I love guns.
And Jovan just said the truth. He said, fact is, most of the rioters weren't us. And that is absolutely correct. But we got blamed for it.
We did. JBTAT, what's up? We were more the peaceful side of it. We didn't go all that crazy stuff. But see, the joint that gets me with a lot of some of these individuals, some of these groups, is that we always got to comply with the government. We got to be obedient towards the government. We can't, like you just said, we can't challenge because a lot of them don't see us as human, man. They really don't. They don't see us human. We can have the only common entity with a lot is the gun. That's it. That is it. That's why I don't get too caught up in the chants. I don't get caught up in it too much. I try with certain groups, I keep it about the gun, with certain groups. Other groups is like the group we in, keep it our family. That's what we talk about. That's why you'll see several different subject matters being like one joint. It ain't always about the gun. That's why sometimes we tend to shy away from the politics of it, shy away from all this stuff, right? Because it's hard. People don't want to talk about it. And it's the stuff that has to be talked about. It's the most difficult stuff that needs to be talked about. The stuff that needs to be talked about is the most difficult to talk about because I think we get too caught up. We trying to spare people's feelings, but people are dying. People like you and me are dying, and we talk about all these things going on. We see it right there. How many of us are going to do? You have the. I'm gonna put that up while we're thinking about it. Do you have the link to the GoFundMe?
I am looking for it.
Okay.
I wasn't able to find that earlier today, but I am gonna try to find that while we're on here, because I want to make sure that it is the actual link, a truthful link, not somebody trying to scam.
Right, 100% facts. Got to do that. Definitely got to do that. It hurts every time. It really does. It's a very difficult thing. It hurts every time. This place that we call the United States of America has got a lot to work on. This place is already broken, but it's really about to be broken.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And it might just need to be. I think the biggest thing we need to do is, when we talk about racism, we need to make sure we talk about it in the sense that it's not, as Baba Ricky Jones would say, it's not this cartoonish imagery of the Klan or the Proud Boys, right? It's an ideology.
Mm-hmm.
We got to look at it at that. We got to look at it that. That's why I came up with that anybody could foot soldier it. Anybody could be a victim of. If you look at the Freedom Riders, if you look at, there was people of color as well as white folks in coalition, non-blacks in coalition, that put their lives on the line because they saw the problems that it was having. And then hopefully more and more people will be able to see it. But the problem is either A, they can't see it, or B, which is probably the more accurate statement, is that they don't want to see it. I guess it's like you're seeing in West Virginia, prime example. West Virginia has a senator that will block everything that will benefit them, and they're perfectly fine with it because they do not want people like me and you to get access to it. So they'll jeopardize themselves getting it so we don't get it.
Mm-hmm.
How crazy is that?
You know, LBJ once said, with regards to the very issue that you're talking about, Hookah, he said that if you take the lowest white man and convince him that he is better than the best black man, not only will he empty his not only can you pick his pocket, but he will empty them for you.
Yep.
And that's where we are.
And the sad part is it's branched over to us too.
Mm-hmm.
Right? We look at it from a immigrant side. Don't know how many times I don't heard us talk about these daggone immigrants, because the first thing we think about when we think of immigrants are Latinos, Mexico to be specific, which is a nationality, not necessarily a race.
Right.
Right? But we don't think about Jamaica. We don't think about Haitian. We don't think about Angola or South Africa. We don't think about people who look like us across the diaspora. So we got to kind of break out of that shell too, because we kind of are indoctrinated into this system that affects everybody. And and I said, if black people ain't good, we are not good. Nobody's good if we're not good.
And it goes both ways.
Right.
Because sometimes, in my experience, a lot of immigrants who come from predominantly black countries and having lived in the Caribbean for a while,
mm-hmm.
where you don't see white supremacy in your face the same way we do.
Yep.
Every single day. They come over here, and when they do, they look down on us and are a lot more trusting and not as hip to the game as we are, because they haven't had to fight it every day.
And funny thing, you say that. I got a friend who's a lawyer, with a friend who's an immigration lawyer. And he says he told her that's one of the things that they learn when they come here is don't trust African Americans or people
mm-hmm.
who they refer to. Don't trust them. They're lazy, they're shiftless, they're this and that. And it's the same. If we were in the car together, and that's the flip side of it. the very same brother from Angola could be sitting in the car with me from here. We driving down the street. He done heard, man, I heard Americans, you black Americans don't know how good you got it type of stuff. And we driving down the street. You talking all this stuff. You just shiftless. You just this. You just everything that he's been ingrained, that's been told to him coming here. We both riding down the street. And the police pull us over. And we both get out the car. Do you honestly think that police officer, if he not really feeling us, is going to be able to decipher between a black person from Angola and a black person from the United States? As a matter of fact, the black person from Angola is going to have a bigger problem because not only is he black, but he is from here. So now you're taking jobs on both fronts. That's how he sees it. That's when the reality kicks in. Right? And the crazy part about this is, Hot Talk Tony, I see you. I'm going to drop the link for you in a minute. I've been to some of these places. And although they don't see it on the level, because they have a level of leadership that we would love to see, but ain't probably ever going to see at this level, because of how our populace is set up, right? We were like one of the few countries with a melting pot. So we're not going to have that major representation that you'll see at other countries that has a, I guess, for lack of a better phrase, race of people, because we all know race is a made-up construct. So they're not going to experience what we did, but at that moment, they're going to experience it, right? But going to these places, they experience the levels of it. It's very micro. It's microaggressive. It's very present. I don't know if they handle it differently, or like, give me an example. The N-word is here, big here. It's a huge no-no, right? We use it. We really need to work on not using it for term of endearment, but that's the word with the ER on the end of it. You go to other places, the word starts with a K and it ends with IR. It means monkey, right? But you'll hear that, but they won't see the N-word won't be a huge issue over there because it's not used like that over there. Like, if their rappers to say the N-word because they hear it over here. But you don't hear our rappers say the K-word because they're like, whoa, time out. Wait a minute. That's not a good word to use. And we'd be like, the N-word's not a good word to use. But you use it. Yeah, I get that. But you shouldn't use it. We're trying to let you know that's not a good word to use. So we definitely got a lot of work to do, but it's kind of designed over the years, over the centuries of division globally. And until we can actually have that global, whatchamacallit? That global unity, that global education, that global learning, because we definitely got to unlearn a lot of this stuff. And it's going to take centuries to unlearn it. And then we got to take another couple of centuries to relearn. That's why they're doing everything in their power to eliminate a lot of stuff, because in the schools, because they don't want us to really know who we are. They don't want anybody else to know who we are either. That's why when people come over here, people who look at us will look down on us, right? We're like, you black. But the killer part is this. They look down on us as a person, as people, but they love us as a culture that love our rhythm, hate our blues type of mentality that you see. And I think some of the people feel it when they get here. Once they actually experience like I just did, the example I gave, you get knocked over your head enough times, you get shut out enough times. Trust me when I tell you, you will get crazy. And Diego, 100%, 100%, man. I mean, the funny thing, I had my experiences over in the UK because I lived over for a little bit, and I told this story. I was out at the clubs and stuff, like walking around, and had my troops. We chilling, and we walking, and this car nearly hit us. My soldier hits the car, and they got the car, blah blah. The police show up, and of course, the police, they see foreigners. We get locked up, so we got to be real careful how we work. Well, the dude says when the cops left, this dude said some wild stuff, and I just let my soldier whoop his ass for a little bit, and I pulled him off. But the racism is definitely there. I had a friend over there also. I was part of a gun group, predominantly black gun group, and I gave her a shirt. And she took it back overseas and wore that shirt out. Just representing, showing love to the black gun group back here. They treated her like she was a terrorist, that she was inciting violence, just for the t-shirt, that she was inciting violence, that she was almost like a terroristic threat. She was getting interrogated for a couple of hours. It was crazy. And the crazy thing people don't know is that they do have a gun group over. They do have a gun. They do a lot of hunting, and they do like composite shooting and all this stuff over there. They do, but it's predominantly rich white men, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that was the thing. Would they have done that to a rich white man wearing a tweed jacket and looking all prim and proper, posh individual, right? And would they actually do that for him? Would that do? And that was her thing. Would you have done this if I was a white male? If I was a rich white male, would I be in here being interrogated and being called a terrorist and all this good stuff? Would you be doing this to me if I was that? And after a while, they let her go. But it's there, right? Yeah, Diego, we're definitely gonna talk. We definitely gonna dialogue for sure. So it's just we got a lot of work to do. But what we got to start with is learning. We got to learn about who we are. Because a lot of us don't know who we are because we ain't really been taught who we are. We need to read more books. I know I'm guilty of that. I'm starting to do a little bit more reading. We need to learn from our scholars. We need to learn about who we are so we can have a better understanding of who we are so we can be able to know where we go from here. Right?
Mm-hmm.
Because we can't keep allowing this. And then we got to make sure we reach out to a coalition and say, hey, listen to us. Because let me tell you about critical race theory. Then I'm going to let Hot Tub Tony come in and talk a little taste. You know why critical race theory is being challenged right now? Even though critical race theory is not being taught in any school, unless you are in law school and it's an elective. Mm-hmm. The reason that this stuff is being challenged, do you know why?
We lost you, Hookah.
Huh?
We lost you. You faded out for a second.
Am I here? Can you hear me?
Yeah.
All right. Where'd you leave me? Where'd you leave me?
You said the reason why critical race theory is not being taught is issue, and then you faded out.
Yeah, the reason that they're challenging it, even though that critical race theory is not really being taught in any school, it's actually an elective in law school, and it relates to like the law on the books, is because more and more white children are starting to wake up, if you will. They're asking more questions. And we can't have that. Not in this society. That's why it's something that's not being taught is being challenged. And the stuff that's actually being taught in schools, which wasn't really that accurate to begin with, or the whole story, I should say, is being taken away. People are actually losing their jobs, or even to the point they're going to go to prison behind teaching, is because more and more white children say, wait a minute, this doesn't sound right.
Yep.
What are you talking about? I mean, there's been video literally of a young girl having an argument with her parents over it. And we can't have that. And then, like I said, there's even black people in line with challenging it. And a lot of them come from what? Our community, the 2A community. Because somewhere along the lines, we get twisted in this 2A community. We think because we both got guns that everything's good, and usually it's not.
And that's the other thing. Like I said, I frequent a lot of 2A channels. I have gone to channels for gun review, and they've talked disparagingly about critical race theory. The catchphrase, I can't stand liberals.
Right.
And it's something of liberal this, liberal that, the liberals, the libs, the libtards, that, it just goes on and on and on.
And they can't tell you what that
means.
Now
they can't tell you what it means. And not only that, we might have issues with liberals, but the issues that we have with white liberals is not the same issues that they have. And let's really define what liberal, conservative, moderate, progressive, right wing, left wing really means. All of those things are based in its foundation in white supremacy. They are gradations of measurement of white supremacy. They are euphemisms of where you fall on the scale as a white person with relationship to white supremacy. It has nothing to do with taxes. It has nothing to do with any other social issue other than where do you stand in relationship to Black people. And until we are willing to have that discussion, we're not going anywhere. If we continue to allow people to use euphemisms instead of saying what they truly mean, we are going to continue to have a problem. When you go to the other 2A channels that are not Black, when they start talking about libs, they start talking about critical race theory. They start talking about how much they love babies, like the rest of us just don't love babies. They start talking about the riots and the protests and needing to protect their families and the people coming from the cities to the suburbs. And if you have to then understand that city from the suburbs thing, what white flight did in the 1960s and 1970s. So they're talking about it around you, but using euphemisms, thinking that we don't understand what is being said.
Facts. Facts. In the words of Dr. Greg Carr, who, if you don't know who he is, you need to learn who he is. He's facts when he said this is a settlers project. This is not, it's a colonial settlers project. He's right. You look at it, it's broken. The ideologies that we say we have, we don't exercise. They don't exercise. We talk about truth, justice, freedom. We don't exercise that. Only certain people get that. And if you happen to fall in that joint, you're fine to a degree. To a degree. Because let's just arguably say they got rid of all of us. All the Black people, whether we wiped out or we just left. I said, who do you think on deck? Who do you think gonna hit next? All the people who are against us now. If we all just say we out of here, but here's the killer part. They don't even want to leave either. Because what got Malcolm X jammed up as far as getting him killed, because he talking about international talks.
Mm-hmm.
Martin Luther King, international talks. Marcus Garvey got ousted because he started talking about international talks, talking about getting out of here, having international coalition. You ain't trying to hear that. So it's like, you want to get kicked out. It's almost like being in a domestic violence relationship.
Yeah.
They don't want you there, but they don't want you to leave either. So it's like it's about power. It's to keep that control. Right? Because they'll tell you, man, get out of here. We don't want you here. What if we all left? What if we just, all right, cool, we out. We take everything with us. Everything. People be scared. People get shook. Because that power gone. You lose the power. You lose that control that you thought you had. When people start figuring out who they are. And that's why they're taking all this education. That's why they challenge. That's why they mess with education all these years. They're trying to mess with it more. What's up, James? What's happening? Because they're starting to see that people are starting to really challenge this system. And the people that are really starting to challenge it, we always been challenging the system. Let's just be real. We came into the world fighting the system. But what's making them more scared, what's going on, puppy dog, is everybody else is now. So certain others are starting to fight that same system. They're like, wait a minute, we got to do something here. So it's, this is a good one, Reginald. Reginald. Man, what? I'm gonna have to have you come on here too, man. Hot Tub Tony, I'm gonna drop the link And also, Reginald, I would love for you to come in here and share that with us. That would be pretty awesome. Hot Tub Tony and Reginald, please share some of that information with us. He said, dog, he want that smoke. I can't be stupid. Dog want that smoke. Facts, Jay, great. Hey, BP, if you want to come in too, you one of the OGs as well. And a Siege, come on in. I need my OGs up in here as well. I need my people.
I'm surrendering to my dog. I surrender.
I'm about to get to that, Jova. I'm gonna have you come on and talk about it in a minute. Hot Tub, what's up?
What's going on, Hooker? How you doing, darling Ebony?
Hi.
I kind of want to circle back around to the actual event that started the discussion.
Right.
And touch on something, in particular what you said, Hooker.
Make your piece.
When it relates to not only the Jamaicans, but the greater diaspora.
Right.
What you see is a lot of other groups of black people that once they get here, they separate themselves from us.
Facts.
Whereas we here in America, we've always had a racial identity. We've always identified with black. These people are coming from countries where everybody's black, so they don't see blackness in the same terms as us.
True that.
And like you said, Oka, you've been in the military. You know people that have immigrated in here. They are told when they come through here, hey, don't get around your own people. So, and let's be honest, how many of us know Caribbean blacks, African blacks that'll tell you, hey, I'm not black, I'm Jamaican. I'm not black, I'm Bahamian.
Facts.
So they don't have a black identity, which that's no problem if that's what you want to do. But it makes it easier for things like this when they happen because you've separated yourself from us. Whereas you will have a community that will rally around you. You have people that will tell you, hey, I don't think this is the move. His girlfriend should have told him, hey, that might not be the move you need to make. Or at least invite some other people that look like you. Because we've seen this story. This is not, darling Ebony, you gave another story, and I'm familiar with the one you gave about the young lady with the sleepover. But we've seen
Tamala
this story
Hoshford.
Yes, we've seen this story time and time and time again. So when is it going? And it's normally a lot of people from the diaspora. Now, shout out to people like Diego. Diego's from the diaspora. He's from Great Britain, if I'm not mistaken.
Yep.
But he understands.
Shout out Diego.
You know what I'm saying?
You want to come in here, man? You're more than welcome. I'm about to drop that link again from because
we first have to address that with ourselves.
Yep.
And get some housekeeping done within our own community as far as the others in our diaspora first.
Right.
Now, going into what happened to the young man, we all know what happened. We all know that was a clear-cut murder. And we got to be honest about it. We can't dance around it. We do have those relationships with others in this 2A community, you know, and salute to them. They over here. They with us. You know, they talk guns with us all the time. But understand our point of view coming as a black person in America. And we say, hey, I'm not all the way comfortable with going out there on this camping trip with you. I'm not going out there. I'm not comfortable going out there when I'm the only face that looks like me. Coy is in the chat. Coy and Hooker, you familiar with the incident I told you about with my neighbor. But when that kicked off, the first thing I did was reached out to somebody in this 2A community. Hey, Coy, this is what's going on. So if you don't hear from me, or check on me this weekend. If you don't hear from me, bro, this is what's happening. And we got to start doing that as a people. Hey, if you're gonna do that, if you're gonna hang out with your white friends or whatever friend, let somebody from your community know that's what you finna do. So if we don't hear from you, we're gonna already jump in there and say, hey, something ain't right here. But Dr. Evans is absolutely right. On another incident, we don't hear about the women as much as we did. The only reason we know about Breonna Taylor is because the NFAC stepped in. Shout out to Locks and Loaded and that organization for what they did. However you feel about it, they put the spotlight on that case and did not shake off that. And that's what's needed. When
and you know what?
Stuff like this, go ahead.
I was going to say, and the other thing is there's a woman who does this blog. She did always on Instagram called Black Femicide. She talked about Breonna Taylor before Sean King did, before NFAC did, but she's a woman and her audience is small. And every day she posts, particularly during the pandemic, Black women, we got to talk about this too one day. Every 6 hours, now it's gone down to every 5.5 hours, Black women are being killed in our community more than anyone else. Boys and girls, Black women are being killed. We're killing our future. And she has a blog called Black Femicide. And we don't discuss that either. She did not get the play. When people talk about the Me Too movement, that was a Black woman, however you feel about it, that was a Black woman who started that. Other people often piggyback off of the work of Black women and then take credit after we've gotten the ball started. Sure. Black women being killed, there's no reason with everything that we have going on in this country against us. Why are the Black women and Black girls being killed every 5.5 hours in this country? How is that any way acceptable to this community, to our community, when we're small, we need every single one of us, and we're killing our future off? How is this acceptable? When Malcolm said that the most disrespected person in this country, the most neglected person in this country, the most unprotected person in this country is the Black woman, and that quote still applies today, we got a problem.
But darling, this is what I don't.
Wait. Hot Tub Tony, let me just interject.
No, go jump in there, bro.
I want to go back on what you were saying, yeah?
Mm-hmm.
Me and my brother spoke about this story when it first broke out weeks ago. We've already spoken about this in the Jamaican community. The reality of this is this. You would say I grew up in like Brooklyn and then moved to a place like Manor House. So I've grew up around Black folks, and my mum moved to a different area. I'm a white friends. I am not going in no bush with no 5 white guys. Simple as that. And these are people that I've known since I'm 11, 12. I'm still not doing it. Now, another point is this. I've got other, and I'm not saying all, but I've got friends that in New York that's told me. He said to me, I went North Carolina on a holiday. I said, where did you go? Like, did you go see the Black American culture? He said no. He was in a bar full of Billy Bobs gone, screaming, hey, Carolina. Now, if something would have happened to him, whose fault is that? That's his fault.
That's his
because
fault.
he chose to. And the fact of the matter is, a lot of Jamaicans come to America and don't ever want to go back. So they will do whatever they want to do not to get put on that plane to go back.
Mm-hmm.
That's facts. That's what something I'm arguing with. And we as Black British have the same thing here with Jamaicans. Because I'm born here. We're 60 years here. We rebuilt England after World War. But Jamaicans will look at me and say, hey, British boy, and rare. But when they need something, yeah, Diggy, I'm a friend, and rare.
Hey, brother, come help me out.
Yep.
Exactly. So I don't play that game. And as I said, I'm willing to help anybody. I sympathize with anybody. But I'm not here to waste tears on foolishness. Because the reality of it, exactly what Hot Tub Tony said. If he phoned any American, I love her hunting. And I found 2A. I found you. Gershon and them lots got their event in November. BP, all of that. You can find it if you want to. But I'm not gonna go into no bush with no guy, and I'm a tourist, and I know that. Gone.
Facts. That's the man. Diego drop that stuff right there. Shout out to
And I'm
DA.
Jamaican. It's just accountability is accountability. The fact of the matter is, I've got my own friends that I've grown with that has a certain mindset. And I thought this is, I don't need them. Cut off their phone, block and delete, because guess why? They're in New York and they're not riz a certain level. And I've got other Jamaican friends that was around them in New York that moved to Atlanta, that hang with Americans that are successful. See? That don't have that mindset.
One thing I want to circle back to Darling Ebony, and that's one thing I want to get out of our community is, but what about that? What about black women? But what about black men? No. There's no difference. We're black people, period. So what affects you as a black woman also affects us. Now, I will say this: I'm very heavy on anybody that's heard me. I'm very heavy on manhood and us taking our rightful place back in the community where we once were, and that's where your defense is for black women. And I also tell black women, with that defense, it comes with a level of you have to listen. If we tell you, hey, this may not be the move for you, you know, you can't rebut like, I don't tell me what to do. I can do what I'm wrong, and you know what I'm talking about. If I'm telling you to do this, it's for a reason. It's for your own protection. It's for your own good. Because as a man, I am the defender of not only my family, but my community as well.
And
so,
you know what, Hot Topic? I understand what you're saying. And yes, we should be all in this together. Oh, is Hot Top Tony talking and I'm talking over him?
No.
I can't hear.
No.
Somebody's
Oh, okay. The way the screen looks on YouTube versus StreamYard, it looks different. What I was saying is that we should be in all of this together. But if we're in it together, why is it that I, in my lifetime, have yet to see this country have a riot, a mass protest that even went global for my death or the death of one of my sisters? Why is it that we talk more? Let me finish. Let me finish, brother. 1 second. Why is it that we talk more about our black men being killed by white supremacy than we do about our black women being killed by white supremacy? If we're in it together and we are lockstep with you, then our deaths need to be as front and center. Our sacrifices need to be as front and center as yours. And that is not happening.
That's where I have to disagree with you about. It may not be promoted in media, which we do not control. That's where it's not being promoted at. Because when you go online, when each one of these women that you spoke of died, there was an outcry, and I can show you pages upon pages upon pages of black men. Not to discredit any black woman that actually done that, because Nicole's view, I follow her. That's one example, and she beats the drum for not only black women but black men. That's one thing that I say we have to get out of that. Period. What affects black men affects black women. What we benefit from, you also benefit from. So we can't have that. When we have a conversation like this, what we're having, we have to be lockstep. This is what we are addressing as a black community versus this is what I'm addressing as a black man. This is what I
no, what I'm saying, I'm addressing it as a community, but what I'm saying is if we're going to address it as a community, we need to also address the issues that affect black women the same that we do as black men. And
we do.
I'm sorry, no, we don't. No, we don't.
No,
We
no,
do.
no, no. I'm saying I'm agreeing with you. We
Yeah.
absolutely do.
And so the it's not about division, it's about making sure that we are inclusive of the Black community and realizing that the Black community is both Black men, Black women, Black boys, Black girls.
And I don't even think we're disagreeing on that fact. But I'm more so okay. I'm more so addressing to the forum. This is an open forum. It is not just black people in here. So when we have these conversations, especially when we're in mixed company, we have to be, even if we don't agree with one another, we have to be in lockstep with this is an issue that's addressing our community. All the internal politics of being black, it's just like we addressed with the greater diaspora. All of those can be taken care of internally. But when we address outside of our community, we have to be in lockstep, and that's what I get about certain members. Because I'm not going to say all the diaspora is like that. I'm not going to say all the black women like that. I don't speak in any absolutes when it comes to our community. But when what affects one affects all. So when we address what affects us, we have to be together. Period. This is a unified front because we're being killed on many fronts. We're being attacked on many fronts. So if we're not together with this as a community, we'll separately fall. And that's all I'm saying.
And I agree with that. And I'm saying for us to be together, we need to address both the issues that are affecting both the men and the women. And I also want to just point out to you that Hookah was able to discuss the differences across the diaspora between Black people in America and immigrants. And he did so in mixed company of this open forum.
Mm-hmm.
And he was not, you didn't say anything to him about that. But the minute that I mentioned the issues that, or the lack of attention paid to the deaths of Black women, then you said something to me. And
See,
that is
sis, I got to
that.
and I don't mean to interrupt you, but I disagree because when Hooker said it, he was pretty much admonishing us as Black Americans, saying we need to get out of this. My point of view is this is why it's like it. And that's all I highlighted was why is there that division. Now going forward, like I say, and that the same thing I say about black women, the same thing I say about the greater diaspora, because our problem is not our people. Our problem is white supremacy.
Absolutely. And what
Period.
and but I also addressed it into the larger extent of the Black community and the issues that we face in the Black community, but with how we treat and address the deaths of Black women. So I addressed it as the community at large, but there's something that happens
Mm-hmm.
when we as Black women deign to speak up about not being heard, seen, acknowledged, protected, supported as we feel that we should be
Mm.
in the community.
Can I say something real quick?
Mm-hmm.
I think a lot of it comes from one, we have not, and you spoke about it, darling Ebony, about us being able to define for ourselves who and what we are, first of all, know who and what we are, define parameters, what words mean, because words are important, verbiage is extremely important, what you call something is important, your definitions are extremely important. So you have to have that true power to define all that terminology and standardize that and say, okay, this is what we mean when we say this. So that if you can't even do that, you can't be on one accord. And I think we as people, as Black people in general, across the planet, but especially in America where white supremacy, racism is a unique form of white supremacy. It was perfected on this continent and exported across the planet because there's like this thing is ideal. This is a perfect model. They've perfected it here on us. And if we can't define that, that's a problem. The problem we have now is we've internalized that. So our relationships with our women, when they start speaking a certain way, boom, something goes off. You don't even, it's not even a conscious thought or idea, but because you've internalized those thoughts, ideas, paradigms, it makes you feel a certain kind of way. And I've been guilty of that myself. I've had thoughts and ideas like, okay, where did that come from? Where did I get that thought or idea from? And a lot of times when we are in forums like this, that'll trigger. Okay, well, women need to do this. Where do we get that idea from? Where do we get that women have to be this, men have to be that? I mean, we can't even define what a man should be. So how are we going to be able to define what a relationship between a man and a woman should be? We have a lot of work to do, because I think Siege asked, what do we do? One, we have to go break it all down. Know who we are, where we are, how we got here, who could said it. Get out, get that information, get that knowledge. Look at these scholars. No, this isn't new. There have been brothers and sisters writing on this for eons, but a lot of us don't have that information. We don't have that knowledge. I got lucky when I got here to San Antonio, and I was in the military, and they give you a debriefing, and when they tell you, where to go, where not to go, I remember the first thing they say, don't go to the east side of San Antonio. I started saying, why don't I want to go to the east side? It must be bad over there. I don't know what's going on there. Then I started driving around. I'm like, okay, where are all the black people at? And I had been on the north side. I've been on the south side. I've been on the west side. I'm like, oh, wait a second. Let me go over to this east side. And guess who was over there?
Black.
You and me. You and me. So they peaked the game out. This is a systemic issue. And luckily, when I got over there was an organization here in San Antonio, Baba Phil, who passed away recently. Baba Phil Johnson had the Organization for Black Unity here in San Antonio that he had here since the 70s. And he had community outreach and business, this and that and the other, and had this institution that was set up to educate the minds of young Black men, women, children. They had a school, they had a library, they had the Marcus Garvey Art Museum that we developed. They had all these things they put in place. They had the Lions Den Karate Club. So they were speaking on issues and how do we educate and re-educate our minds not to think with that white supremacy racist model. We have to understand the white man doesn't have to control us. The system does not have to control. We control ourselves. Like when we speak out on certain things, we don't need change. Our mind is chained, excuse me. So we have to understand that when we're speaking this, that, and the other, one, we shouldn't give a damn about what form we're speaking. Yeah, we have to be on one accord. We know that. We know we're being monitored. We know everything we do or say is, under the, magnifying glass of the system, but we have to be able to speak truth at all times and understand that. So I think that's like the beginning point, the power to define and realize where we are, how we got here. Get that down, then we start, okay, this didn't work. We know white supremacy racism doesn't work. We know misogynistic behaviors don't work. We know that. The proof is in the pudding. All it does is elevate the white male and his ways above everybody else. And what has that gotten us? Multiple world wars, poverty, famine, destruction, death. Why do you want to base your thoughts and ideas on anything that they have developed? It makes no sense at all.
True that.
We have to take that garbage out, throw that baby out with the bathwater, literally. Fuck that baby, excuse my language. Throw it out.
Reginald.
Yeah, man, I'm gonna make this quick. When I wrote that, man, I grew up here in Atlanta, man, and my whole family, my father made sure that we all had a membership in the SCLC. So I done marched up and down these streets as far as, dealing with racist cops killing blacks. And then when I got old enough to make a decision on whether to go to college or what I was going to do with my life, I joined the military.
Right.
And even though once I got those sergeant stripes spent on me, I had one guy ask me, he said, "Hey, aren't you from the South?" I said, "Yes." And he said, "Well, what's a hunky?" And I said, "Well, a hunky is just a chocolate covered ice cream, vanilla flavored ice cream bar." And I guess he was thinking, because a lot of blacks call white folks hunkies. That was a response that he was gonna get.
Mm-hmm.
So, but I wouldn't let him have that. You know, I wouldn't give him that opportunity. So, but anytime we got people that's being hunted down, like Ahmaud Arbery, I wanted to go out with the NFAC when they came to Stone Mountain, but my wife was scared that something was gonna pop off, so I just stayed put. But we've got to stand up against humanity, man. I don't care if it's blacks, whites, Puerto Ricans, Asians. We got to nip this stuff in the bud, man. And the only way we can do it, I keep saying vote, 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 but race, it's a whole lot of racist folks everywhere. So I mean, what are we gonna do?
I'm gonna chime in on that because yeah, I hear what you're saying about vote, 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 but we've been voting one way since the 1960s, and where are we now? We're in a worse situation economically and in society standard than we were in the 1960s because when we got the right to integrate, we had our own business, we had our own land, we had black wealth. So voting is not the way. Outside that, with a caveat, on the local level, I do agree. I see the value in voting for your what you can control in your immediately community. But once we start going nationally, it does not benefit us. It has not benefited us since the 1960s. I, for one, and I do believe that there's multiple ways we can go about defeating white supremacy as a people. Now, I'm not relegating to say my way is the best way, but I take a more hardline stance on this, and I stand on my stance. And darling Ebony, I do not want you to take what I said as me attacking you, me attacking black women. I'm not. I'm in lockstep with y'all in this. I really
And
am.
we are in lockstep with you.
I just have a strong opinion about this, and we're at the point now. What we see in the 2020 is us circling the wagons because everybody has surrounded us, and as a community, we're standing up. We got on code real quick. We got on code really quick in less than 3 months. We knew what the problem was. We agreed on the problem, and we moved as a community. Now let's expound upon that. This two-way community has grown since that time, not because we were fearing the riots, because we saw a black man get lynched and it almost got away with it. We saw a black man get lynched down here in Georgia and they did get away with it until we spoke out on it. So now we're at a point to say, okay, we're going to arm up. We're going to take care of our communities. And now everybody's crying foul because we're doing that. We're not doing anything different than anybody else's community. We're looking out for us.
That's true.
First. Us first. And I don't see anything wrong with that. Every other community looks out for themselves first. That's self-preservation. But with us looking out for ourselves, we're going to address this. We're going to call it out. Yes, we have friendships in other communities. Yes, they're not, but if you're my friend, you shouldn't have an issue with me bringing this up.
True.
That's true.
If you're my friend, you're my friend, you should be bringing it up in your community.
Facts.
If we're really friends.
Facts.
Right.
Big
That's
facts.
true.
Which
100%
is
correct.
right.
So that's that's just my feeling on it. Like I say, I do have a strong opinion on it, and there's some in our community that have an extreme opinion on this. So
I think Dr. John Henrik Clarke said it best, though. You can judge the state of a people by how their women are protected and treated. And if you look how the black woman is treated and depicted, it's not good. And a lot of that is on us as black men.
It is on us. You're absolutely right.
And it's like, not that they need help, but we should be protecting, what's ours, our people, our community. And if they're not treated well, we know, they don't got no love for us.
And I have no issue with that being addressed. I do agree. It starts with the men. Any change in your community got to start with the men.
I don't know if it starts with the men, but we have to live up to our responsibility. Because if you look historically, women have been at the forefront. And I know a lot of people don't like hearing that. Yep. They don't like hearing that the women have been carrying this. That's not something that demeans you as a man. You can have a strong woman and be a strong man.
And there's
But
nothing wrong.
you have
I
to
agree.
understand that the women have been doing as much or more than the men all along, because they just kill us. We're easily taken.
And then also, like, and Black Poindexter, you bring up a good point. People, this will actually shock most people, but nearly 2/3 of the Black Panther Party was women.
That's the thing.
That is
when you talk about the Montgomery bus boycott,
Women.
It was those Black maids and those Black seamstresses that were doing the walking.
Yeah.
So we have always been there.
Always. And historically, what happens is when we build those organizations, what usually makes them fall apart is when we start incorporating those white supremacist ideas that women have to be subservient, this down here, this, that, and the other. That's what usually that's what gets us every damn time. We start adopting their value system, what's important to them, and trying to do this and this, that, and the other. Again, stuff that's not even working for them, we try to do that, and it destroys our movements. And then we don't have institutions in place that can protect those organizations. And that's the thing. We've built organizations that have done great things. But what happens? We can't protect them.
If you study the history of religion,
yeah,
and I'm not downing anybody's religion, I'm just saying study the history of religion. If you look at Zoroastrians, if you look at Hindu culture, if you look at African culture, there was a duality between the divine masculine and the divine feminine. Something, and having realization that the two complement each other, were equal to each other, but not necessarily the same.
Thank you.
And until we get back to an understanding of the duality of the divine feminine energy and the divine male energy, and working to get those two things back in balance, we're not going anywhere.
Everything has to be balanced.
Can I say something? Yeah? Like everything what BP and Hot Tub Tony was saying, which is I totally agree with it. But we're gonna be in this, and I'm only going on America's similar to England in a sense of me as a Black British, I can't be deported nowhere. I can't be sent back home to Jamaica. This is where I'm from, so I'm here. Now, the second part is that you could talk about voting just like the Labour Party is our predominant party in the, like you lot is the Democrats, yeah? But if I asked you how much of us take our money and put money on campaign contributions, you see, in as the Black people, you can sit there, you can say all these laws and what you want to do, but until we take our own money, instead of buying the boot on big drip, big guns, because it's a gun thing, take some of that money and go to your local MP, put some money together so you can hold people accountable. That's what we're trying to do over here. Because we grow amongst Asians, Turkish, Indians, and all other people. And guess what? You see in them voting lines, I don't see them.
No. I'm gonna
but
counter
they get things done.
I'm gonna counter what you say, Diego, on this aspect. If you say put your money behind whatever party you support, I think that's our biggest problem. In that we've given ourselves so freely that they treat us like we're just whores. They know that they know the party that we majority vote for, and I'm not saying because I actually think both of them should burn in hell, but we'll take that. We'll take my opinion out of that. But we cannot freely give ourselves to someone and not expect and ask for our just due. I'm a firm believer in this. Vote my interest, period.
There it is.
And
That's what I mean, though, Chris.
if you're a Republican or if you're a Democrat and you come in there and you walk in front of me and you want my vote, you're gonna have to earn it.
Yeah.
It may take at some point that we have to say, you know what, a ballot comes up, general election, whatever. We may sit there and look at it, and you know what you say, neither one of these candidates are worth a damn, right? But you still going to show up because you got to vote for taxes and all the other stuff that you should look at when you're out there. But you know what I'm saying? And then we'll have, like down in Georgia, we have this thing called the splosh taxes, where they supposedly are going to update all these roads and all this other stuff.
Right.
And they'll tax us every year for all these things. Tony, how much of that money's been spent? But we get billions of dollars been raised, but none of it's been spent. But yet we still go right back and vote for the same damn clowns that told us this is what's going to benefit us. We as a community have to say, you know what? I gave you my vote last time, and I got nothing out of it. You're not getting it. You come back to me after you do something that I need.
Exactly.
You see what I'm saying? Now, with the relationship between us and our women, like BP said, there's so much white supremacy or abuse that we've taken on both sides, male and female, that some days I just don't think we listen to each other, and we're both talking at each other, and we don't understand it. We don't understand how to listen. Because the sisters make very valid point about how they feel unprotected by us. Regardless of what our role is and regardless of how we feel that we should or we out there protecting, if those that you are protecting say, brother, I don't feel protected, there's something we got to do to fix that. And I lean onto our sisters to say, hey, brother, I know you're doing the best you can, but can you help me this way? I mean, we gotta communicate our thoughts, needs, and want between both sides, or we're both gonna seem like we're just talking at each other, saying, "I did this and you did that."
Yeah,
exactly.
Facts.
Yeah, but the other thing is, man, we kill each other over arguments between each other.
Hold on. And see, I'm gonna stop you there because my biggest fallacy and problem is that we kill each other over whatever. Black kills black, white kills white, Koreans kill Korean. It's called proximity crime. And the biggest thing is poor people kill other poor people because they're struggling. And that's what we see in our community. We got to fix the systemic problems long before we start saying black folks run out here killing everybody. Because I'm not out here killing everybody. Because you know what? I figured out a way to survive, succeed, and move on in my life to put myself in a position where I'm not struggling. I'm not hating my position. Therefore, I'm not hating everyone around me. So we have to stop this crap about black people just out here asking to kill, because there's a lot of us still here that's not killing each other. We focus on a 1%. We need to do something. We need to fix it. We need to figure out how we can help our brothers and sisters, but we can't continue to throw them away and just act like we run out here murdering each other in the street and creating massacre. Yes, I know every time one of them die kills part of our future.
I think
we cannot create that dynamic. That's all we do, because they don't told us that. It's bullshit.
But I think a lot of that starts with the dynamic or the idea that, we want to fix everything on this macro level. We want to fix these huge problems, which are systemic issues, and we haven't even addressed ourselves. We have to start internally and take those thoughts that come in your mind, your behavior, your actions, and control it. We can't control anybody else. That's first of all. I can't control nobody. I don't have any control or power over anybody except me. I have to change my mindset. I had to go through a process of learning who I was, where I came from, how all these issues got started, this, and the other. So it's a lifelong process. And we have to be dedicated to learning and education and change constantly. So we start with ourselves. We talk about, giving money to a political party when we don't even understand that in the Black community, $1 stays in the Black community for an average of 5 to 15 minutes. It hits the bank. It goes to a bank that's not in your community. You don't own it. You don't make any decisions on where the hell's money go. And they invest. They don't invest on the east side of San Antonio where Black people are. They invest on the northwest side. So your dollars are being taken to oppress you. The police are there to make sure you may stay in your area. The businesses are there to make sure, they give you inferior service. You're paying for inferior service. So we're not even able to finance our own, treatment. So we have to understand that
I
we
hear
got to
you.
build
I hear you.
institutions, build
I wasn't
businesses,
telling you.
and spend money in those businesses, and then expand. But it starts small. We have to understand that it's not going to be changed overnight. We can't control the system, because what happens is, you talk about voting, they just change the laws.
That's it.
Yeah.
They just redraw the boundaries.
And that's the killer part too.
You can't vote.
That's
You can't
why
give somebody water on a boat line, a 98-year-old who's out there trying to vote. If you give them water and it's 100 degrees, we're going to change the law and make you a criminal and say you got to go to jail for doing that.
And here's my point with that's why I push back. When I hear us say that voting is not important, you are dead wrong, because if your vote did not matter, you would not have laws saying that you can't give water to 98-year-old grandmothers in line.
And not only that,
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, I was going to say, not only that, to cut you off, Hookah, if our vote didn't matter, our vote does matter, because if we're talking about mass incarceration, who sits on the jury? The person that has registered to vote, and you pick the jury pool. How can we get upset? Oh, wow, it's an all-white jury. Well, maybe because in that county, more white people went and registered to vote than black people. We protect each other more when, at the very least, we registered to vote. I'm not going to tell you how to vote, but if you, at the very least, register, at least pay attention to your locales. What we're seeing right now, with the patriots running around, that did not start with Trump. I was in college when that happened. And I distinctly remember when I was in college, we used to have a newspaper called the Northwestern Chronicle. And it was all these conservative white dudes, and they would come around the dorms and they would drop these racist newspapers at the door. And one day, one of them, I said, nobody listens to you, because it was just this little small group. And he says to me, oh, but they will one day, because we're starting with local government. And for them, the local government was what they were doing in the dorms, and they did it. And what they also did was, they always say, and this is about Democrats have to fall in love before they vote. Republicans fall in line. They did not like George W. Bush, because ironically, as we can see now, they thought George W. Bush was way too liberal of a Republican. He was not conservative enough for them. But what they did was they voted for him because they knew the importance of the Supreme Court. They knew the importance of the appellate courts and the district courts, and that if he were president, he would be appointing people to those courts. Sometimes you're not voting just for your elected officials. People on the conservative white supremacist side, they value the courts more than we do.
Excuse me,
vote
John,
with
how
those
long
in
does
mind.
Supreme Court justice serve?
Lifetime.
Federal court.
Lifetime.
Federal court.
Forever.
And here's the point.
So like in 2016, I personally could not stand Hillary. But I voted for Hillary because I knew that Kennedy was old. I knew that Ruth Bader Ginsburg had cancer at that point 2 or 3 times. I knew that Trump was going to pick 3 or 4 justices to the Supreme Court. So I said, you know what? I don't like her, but strategically, a Supreme Court justice is there for life. Strategically, people on the federal the federal appeals court are there for life. So what did he do? He got some justices who were in their late 40s, early 50s. We had an opportunity to have a liberal Supreme Court for the next 40 years. And instead, what we have done is ensured that we have a conservative one for the next 40 years.
For your kids, your grandkids, and maybe their kids.
And here's a joint right here, too.
The
local,
whether it be liberal or conservative court. Now, we've been voting on our voting rights, not anybody else's community voting rights. Every couple of years they have to vote on our whether they're going to give us the right to vote.
Yes,
it does not matter when you have a liberal a court or a conservative court. They've shown you that time and time again. right? So,
well, how would you know?
power,
Because we've
I
had a
understand.
conservative court for 40 years.
Hold on.
This is true.
There is power in voting. I'm not disputing that. But we unfortunately have been giving our vote to a party that discredits us. They almost look at the black voters, oh, we got that already. So there's power in voting,
at
yes,
the end
but
of the
there's
day,
power in not.
at the end of the
There's
day,
power.
we have to take
Hold
accountability
on.
for that, because the problem that we have is that we think that the voting is the end.
Yeah.
Mhm.
We don't
That's
realize
what I said.
it's the beginning.
But that's what
It's the
I said.
beginning.
And that's the problem, right? The local organizers where we fail. We don't
But I'm
contribute.
gonna
What
push back. I'm gonna
groups
push
should
back on this.
contribute to? Who, like, and
Hold
that's
on.
like with your vote, right? Give me 1 second, buddy. Give me 1 second, bro.
Okay.
Could I hear people when we talk about voting, right? And yeah, get it. We're not going to get everything. We're not. No group, well, with the exception, gets
okay.
everything.
Don't say that.
Even a lot of them don't get everything because the rich do, but poor don't. Let's be honest. They just don't see it yet because they got other things blocking their vision, if you get what I'm saying.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
The problem is, when I look at people who don't vote, the first thing they talk about is federal. They're not talking about school board.
Yeah.
They're not even talking about the local trash man.
Yeah.
They're not talking about the dog catcher. These are all in certain communities, elected positions. Sheriffs, town board. You got
election boards.
School district with an entire white school board with none of those people live in that district. Yeah. How does that happen? And you think that's why we're having these issues, why we're not learning the stuff that our kids need to learn in these schools, because we are not involved civically enough. I'm not saying that the voting is the only thing.
I started the whole conversation by saying on a local level, I do agree. But it's not just hold on. Black Poindexter's touched on something, and that's what I'm going to push back on. Other groups, the Asians were able to get a hate crime bill that gave money to their community, and they have one of the lowest voting percentages of any group on any level of government.
That's the misinformation right there.
Because they have, hold on, and I'm going to tell you.
That's misinformation.
Because they have an economic base that pushes that. Because let's be clear, voting is only one part of it. But if you don't have, if you don't practice group economics, if your community is not pushing their dollar,
that's part of
push the agenda.
Yeah.
Then you are lost. That vote means nothing. So,
but I'm
like
push back just a little bit with just right there, the misinformation that we have that spreads to our joint too. It's not called the Asian Anti-Hate Crime Bill. It's called the COVID-19 Hate Crimes Act. Anybody could benefit.
And who does it benefit? No, it does not. No, it does not.
It is.
No, it does not.
It
benefits Asian communities and Pacific Islanders. That's it. I did read the bill.
It's not an Asian bill. Number one, if it was strict for Asians, it would have been locked out of the Supreme Court because it would have been unconstitutional.
You can't single out,
You can't do it. It benefits all of them.
It does not. It does not. It benefits
the 1968 Civil Rights Act.
The COVID-19
Civil Rights Act has a title in there that deals with lynching.
How does it benefit black
people? We also had the Emmett Till Anti-Lynching Act that came out in 2019. It actually passed both the House and the Senate, and it got filibustered by Rand Paul. Nobody is beating up Rand Paul for filibuster.
The Asian hate crime bill is not allowed. It was what is it called when slipping my mind. It's not. It did not go through.
Executive order.
Right now, but
executive order.
Yes, it was brought up.
You can go to congress.gov and look up what it's called. Go to congress.gov, look up S.37.
Okay, Hookah, I'm gonna ask you this. I'm gonna put this out there to any of you. How does the black community benefit from that particular bill? Because from what I read, it assigned $50 million that they get, the victims of Asian hate crimes get from that bill. That does not benefit us.
It's anybody. It doesn't say anything about Asian nothing because they can't put those type of words.
It's
they single out a joint. It's unconstitutional. It would have got destroyed in court. Anybody could benefit it. It was spearheaded by
Asians,
legislators, but it benefited everybody, just like certain bills that are
no, it does not. I push back. It does not.
We do benefit from it.
Yeah. Two other people that sponsored it were Asian. There's one.
You can't benefit from it if you are attacked and you push to have those charges pressed. You black folks will benefit from it too. No different than Latino. No different than Latinos or any other group.
Let me slip in here on this point. Whether it's benefits us or not, that legislation is a legislation that another community pushed because they had an issue and they took their financial backing and used it to leverage their voting backing.
Absolutely.
And the reason, yes, there's money behind it about Tony, but the other side of it was they basically told every one of their representatives, your ass won't be here next year if you don't put this thing through. Now, there goes the power that we have to learn how to use. We have to whether love John Lewis for what he meant to us before he passed. But when we put him in there for 40, 50 years and we don't hold him accountable after the first year because what he did in year 10 is not working. We have to, if we're gonna put up back, even if we're gonna back one party, which I disagree with, you need to back your interests. But if you're gonna back Democrat Party, if you're gonna stay lock and barrel with that party, that's your choice. But that doesn't mean that you're gonna stay lock and barrel with every candidate. If a Democrat comes up and you put him in office and he doesn't do the job, when it comes down to the primaries and and all those, get their asses back out of there. Don't leave him there because he's my guy because he's the Democrat. No, he's got to go. If you don't want to go to the other side, you need to go you need to go push the next viable candidate to replace him. And if you notice what's going on in the Republican Party, they're having a damn civil war. They're literally having a civil war because basically what Trump has decided that if you're not with me, you're against me. And they're literally taking down any and every one of those candidates or those representatives or congressmen, whatever, that went against him, and they're targeting him. They're literally putting someone up against him. I saw this thing.
That's what we do. We are not primary.
Let me speak.
All right, look, thanks for having me. I'm gonna jump back in the chat.
All right, all right, man. Appreciate it, man.
Thank you. We're not primary focused.
Yes,
we are general election focused.
National.
Exactly. We're not even national mostly, but we're general election focused, not primary focused. We let other communities pick for us who are going to be our candidates to choose from. And then we wait until the general election. Well, I ain't voting for him because he didn't do this and he didn't do that, or the time for that discussion should have been in the primary. The other thing that I want to say is, when we had the re-voting on the Voting Rights Act, which you're right, no other community has to continually have their voting rights voted upon, whether we can have it. When we had it in 2010, it passed both Republicans and Democrats.
Every single time.
Now here's it up until now. Now here's the issue that I think we need to think about. Us not getting what we want in these first 2 years, they are doing that intentionally as a form of voter suppression. We cannot suppress your vote the way we want to suppress your vote. So therefore, we're going to implant and put the seed in your mind. My thing is, okay, I didn't get what I want, but maybe I need to then vote more. Manchin said it. Manchin, who said that he was a James Byrd Democrat. And if you knew who James Byrd was, okay, he talking about he wanted them old school Democrats.
Dixiecrat.
He said Dixiecrat. He said,
same as the president.
If you want the George Floyd Act, if you want the Community and Policing Act, if you want to protect the John Lewis Voting Rights Act, then put more progressives in Congress. Put more progressives in the Senate. But at this point, everybody has been so deflated and discouraged that we already got folks talking about, well, I ain't voting.
I'm not going to vote,
I ain't voting.
Look at Reconstruction, first Reconstruction. We had a higher black voter turnout in the late 1900s than we do in 2020.
Yeah.
Yep.
That's a problem.
And we need to also stop being general election voters. We need to start voting
local elections
and local and off your elections. Half the time, people don't even pay attention to off your elections.
Exactly.
Facts, man. Like school board, like the coroner. That's the part that people don't even think about that. Like the position,
county tax commissioner, all those things that affect you every day.
Right, and look at the coroner in the George Floyd case, the Afrikaner from South Africa who testified on behalf of Show. He was an elected official at one point, and to the point that somewhere, I think it's in Baltimore, they're now reopening some of his cases because what he was saying was so medically wrong.
Inaccurate, yeah.
So we got to
okay,
but it doesn't stop there, Hot Tub. That's the thing. You're right.
Hold on, Hookah. It's funny you bring up the coroner. One thing I hear coming to Georgia, that we're having an issue with is we had a coroner. The community rallied behind her. We got her elected, but when she got in the seat, she lasted every bit of 3 months. Not because she couldn't do the job, not because she wasn't qualified to do the job. She was absolutely more so than her predecessor.
Right.
But the white people in the community gave her death threats every day. Her subordinates would not work for her, would not go out to calls to pick up bodies. And they gave her so much pushback that it made her doing her job impossible. So what did she do? She quit instead of trusting the community to come rally behind her, which we did as a community. Petitions were signed, marches were had in support of her. We leaned heavy on the city council to stop that, and it did nothing. Now, like I said, I never stated that I don't agree with voting on the local election. I vote in every one of my local elections because that benefits me. I can see the change that comes with that. But I do not vote by party. I vote by my interest. Who is pushing this? If we need our roads fixed, if you haven't fixed them and you've been sitting in there, which we are dealing with right now, without all do.
Absolutely.
Guess what's going to happen? Right. You're out of here next election. The community is not going to, we have already talked about it. We're not going to support you. But, and I'll give it Darling Ebony our credit on this, we have to field our own candidates. That requires money. That requires you to give up $100 here and there. We in this 2A community, we spend $100 like it ain't nothing. You spend $100 on ammo just to get a couple boxes.
Yeah. Right.
So what is that to push a candidate? You got to find, but nobody's going to bring you your candidates. You got to find your own candidates in your community. And if you got one that you think is decent, you make it explicitly clear with your dollar that this is what we want. And if you don't get this, we won't financially support you, nor will we vote for you.
See, Hot Tub Tony, the thing, that money game, we can't win that money game. And if I have a candidate that's beholden to donations and money and this, that, and the other, now this lets me know he can be bought or she could be bought.
All politicians can be bought. All politicians are beholden to financial contributions.
That's the issue.
That's politics.
That whole system is set up. It wasn't initially set up for people to serve, to be lifelong politicians. That was supposed to be your part-time job. You were a farmer or this and that. White men, landowners, supposed to go there, go to Washington, do whatever for a few months, whatever, and then go back to doing what they're doing. The current model is set up for us as a people in general. We can't win that game because we don't have the influence or power to be able to buy and hold people accountable to say, okay, if we don't give you this dollar, we're not going to support you.
I disagree.
On the local level, yes. On the
hold on, VP. We are the second biggest buying block in this country. We're only second to white people. So we have the money. It's what you decide to spend your money on. Yeah. Now, if you don't see a value in fielding your own candidates that represent your community, hey, I don't know what to tell you.
We can do it locally.
So yeah, financially, we do have the resources. We do have the money to field our own candidates. There should be no reason, like Coy said, there should be no reason John Lewis and you guys outside Atlanta do not know that John Lewis was a terrible politician for black people. Terrible. Jim Clyburn, I've lived in John Lewis's district. Yeah. I've lived in Jim Clyburn's district. Those are the poorest districts.
But I think
in their respective states, and they keep getting voted in year after year after year. Get them up out of there.
Yeah. To
they
me,
don't represent
nationally, this is my opinion, nationally, that whole system is corrupt. It can't be fixed. It's not going to be fixed. Locally, even statewide, I think we can have powerful influence. But nationally, I think that system is.
But BP, these are state representatives I'm talking about. I'm not talking about national politics. When I mention John Lewis, he represents my state that I live in now. When I mention Jim Clyburn, I lived in South Carolina for 10 years. So I know I can speak on these two individuals. And just because they look, a lot of us get into the bad habit of voting what look like us. Voting what look like us ain't work for us.
Well, I understand.
Because let's be clear, the Congressional Black Caucus does not represent black people. They represent immigrants. They represent Hispanics, but they do not represent black people.
So then why didn't
I stand on that? I look at I put their whole
why
voting
didn't you
record
primary them?
That goes back again. Who did we have to primary them? They gave when we went up there, we're not fielding that. That goes back to what I said. We as a community have to field our own candidates. I said that off the jump because we can't keep going off of. We've been going off year after year after year with candidates that were given to us. Candidates were chosen for it. Here, you can take this Democrat or you can take this Democrat. Well, what's your black agenda? What are you prepared to do for our community in particular? Well, I can't do anything for your community. I just do stuff for everybody. That's not how they talk.
I understand what you're saying.
That's not how they talk to the Asian community. When they go to the Asian community, they say, this is what I'm prepared to do for your community. When they talk to the Hispanic community, this is what I'm prepared to do for your community. When they talk to us, they give us non-tangible. Well, we'll give you a holiday. We'll give you a voting rights act.
One thing
none of that is tangible. None of that puts financial resources into our community. But now I will hold us accountable for this. We've never demanded tangibles until recently. We've never demanded economic opportunities within our community the same as every other community has done. But now that we're demanding for that, everybody's crying foul again. Why would you ask for that? When we can't do anything specifically for your community, we have to do it for every community, even though you don't do it for every community. Immigration is like black.
Can I say one thing?
In America, real quick, BP. Right. You're not gonna get it. Black people, and I know this doesn't sit well with a lot of black people. We gotta stop asking and just start doing.
That's exactly what I was gonna say.
We just gotta stop asking.
All these other communities, they do it them damn selves. When they come over here, they build their communities from the ground up. They don't ask somebody to come and help them.
Bullshit.
Allow them.
I'm calling bullshit. They do not. There is no community there is no Hispanic community. They move into communities that have already been there. You're from California. Come on, BP. You're from California. There is no. Hold on. There is no Hispanic community that they built up in California. There is no Asian community. You moved into a community that was already established.
I disagree with you, man. I disagree with you.
Latinos have been the Latinos were in Cali, in New Mexico, Arizona, Texas before whites or blacks. Okay, they were there, and the thing is, they don't come in and listen. Hear me out, brother. Hear me out. They're not gonna come in and ask and beg whitey for a check. They'll take. You see, this is the thing. Like, here's an example. My father-in-law used to work in the steel mills in Illinois, making $20-something an hour in the late 70s. Yeah. Good money. Moved the whole family out to the suburbs. The Mexicans came in. They were willing to take those $10 an hour jobs. What's the corporation gonna do? You want to make 20-something, 30-something, be part of the union, you gotta go. They'll take those $10 an hour workers. Those $10 an hour workers got no problem putting 20 to 30 people in one house, and they slowly stack up, buy and build and keep moving and taking over a neighborhood.
Well, sir, we lost you. We lost you for a sec, Rodney. We lost you.
I understand.
Oh, we lost your signal, man.
It's breaking up a little bit.
You're breaking up. We're losing you.
But he's absolutely right. They come in. They don't ask permission. They don't, take their dollars and say, hey, I'm going to give you my money if you, help me out. They come in. They build those communities from the ground up. When I used to live on 104th in Figueroa, which was an all-black community, Then we started to move over to other parts of town. The Latinos came in, bought, came into those communities, built businesses, built infrastructure, built all the other stuff, recirculated their dollars within the community to the point to where they became a force that had to be reckoned with. So when they went to the system, they already had a base. They already had, influence. They already had those things. We do not do that. We have not done that. We're doing it.
I'm gonna give you. I'm gonna give you an example. I'll give you an example out of
Gotta stop asking.
I'll give you an example out of Georgia. Everywhere that Hispanics are in the Atlanta area, those were areas, especially recently, those are areas that were once populated by Black people. As we moved to the suburbs and we became financially successful, we moved out of those communities and seeded those communities to the Asians, to the Hispanic community.
Exactly.
They didn't build anything. You took our infrastructure that was already ready. What we did not do and what we should have done was continue to build up those communities.
Exactly. We abandoned our infrastructure.
Now, I'll agree with you on that. I'll even agree with you on the fact that we shouldn't be asking for anything.
But here's an example.
I totally 100% agree with that.
Like, here's an example. Right here in Fort Lauderdale, there's an area called the Sistrunk neighborhood. Black community, one of the oldest Black communities here in the whole state of Florida. And we've watched, my wife and I try to spend money in the community at least once or twice a week because it's Black owned. But we have watched white folks buy up the whole area further east. And now you see more and more Latinos just walking through the neighborhood of Black folks, while too many of our people are sitting idle at the parks, hanging out front of the corner stores, chilling. They're bringing in, they got money coming in. But instead of thinking like a co-op and linking their money together and doing something and starting up their own stores, buying up the buildings, other people coming in. There's a bank, I think it's called One United Bank. They're on Cali, a Black-owned bank. They have a location in Miami. One of my lodge brothers works at the bank. He says a majority of the people who are coming in for these SBA loans don't look like us. And this is a Black bank that established, these are Black folks with real money who established a bank so we can do it. But he says 90% of his clients don't look like us. So if we're not going to do it, somebody else is going to just do it.
Let me ask you a question, Raleigh. Let me ask you a question. Did you say that they were immigrants, correct?
You can say yay and nay, but it's like white folks.
I'm asking for my own understanding.
Most of them are.
All right.
And we're not doing it.
This is what I've noticed, and this is what I've seen in my limited years on this planet.
Okay.
We are as American as hangings and apple pie. It just is what it is.
Right.
We behave like Americans. Now, we cannot. It would be nice if we change everything that we are. Just as much as we're not Africans only by heritage, but not by name anymore. Mm-hmm. We're not going to be an immigrant population. A lot of times when immigrants come over here, they share a language and they share not knowing a language. So the only thing they can is lean on to those small communities because they're not accepted by the larger community.
Common experience.
So they're going to they're going to do business with those that they can relate to, talk to, whatever. Whereas we as a group of people are American, and our images, everything we've been taught in school, and all the way from birth to now is the American system. So we're gonna move like that.
When you have Black banks that have real Black money sitting there waiting on Black folks to come through with business proposals to help build businesses, and they don't do it, mind-boggling.
It's mind-boggling to you because you're educated, you're smart enough, and you probably understand the way money flow, right? But when you cannot expect a group of people. I'm not knocking the poorest among us or whatever, but they are not those. They are not financially trained or understand how the system works. We can prove it by some of the fact that majority of our young athletes, when they turn 18, 21, 22, 25, they're broke by 30, and they've had generational wealth. But you can't blame a group of people that's uneducated. You can hope, you can pray, and you can try to reach out to them, but you can't blame them for not being equipped for something that they was never taught to even
But
partake.
I personally feel that we are at a point in time now where that information and knowledge is out there. We got to stop begging Whitey for a hand. The information is out there.
I can bury $100 in your yard, but if you don't know what's there, you ain't gonna find it. My point.
I think a lot of times critical thinking's not encouraged. I grew up in South Central Los Angeles until I was 12, 13 years old, right? So I'm in 7th grade, getting straight A's in school, whatever, doing this, that, and the other. We moved to Palos Verdes, which is one of the most affluent communities in this country. The first day I sat my black ass in an all-white classroom, I was the only black person in that classroom. The teacher gave me a newspaper business section and said, you need to pick 5 companies because you're going to have to follow the stocks on this, learn the stock market terms, this, that, and the other, create a portfolio, this, that, and the other. This is on the first day of the damn class. They're teaching that. That's not taught in our communities to this day. So like you said, you can have information out there, but if you're in a survival mode, most times when you're in the hood, you're in survival mode. You're just trying to get through the damn day, not get shot,
but you know what?
Get jumped. So we have to take that responsibility ourselves. BP. And teach our kids that.
BP, the information is, and you know why? Yes and no. Right, I'm saying as of now.
Yeah, now it's better.
The information is there. Like, here's an example. Another example. You can go on. I see people who will share nonsense on TikTok and IG about people partaking in buffoonery, but at the same time, they won't share financial literacy the same way they'll share a man or a woman partaking in some goofy nonsense. But that information and knowledge is there. I'll send my family, some of my friends and family members, information to them. They don't care, but they're more worried about what rapper who's wearing a gold chain or what's happening on some housewife show or real hip hop show.
Have you ever saw the show Real Black? The show Real Black on YouTube?
No, I have not.
Check it out. That brother had a thing on last night. He's talking about black cinema and portrayals of black people, this, that, and the other. It was just on Friday night. So check out. He has a lot of good information. But he talks about how the media ingrains in us what's good, what's bad, this, that, and the other. And he talked about black exploitation films. And he talked about how The Spook Who Sat by the Door was the high point in black cinema. And that they tried to squash that idea. That thing made them so damn scared because it was talking about revolutionary thought, ideas, and paradigms. They didn't want that. So they went out and financed all this other garbage that, that has no benefit to us, but it keeps us where we are. So again, we have to take control of those things that are oppressing us. The media, the education system, the bank, we have to take control of that. But we have to start small. I think a lot of times we want to come up with all these big ideas. It has to start with us and our kids and our, community and, people we interact with. Keep sending that information to your family members. If one person takes it, that's a win. If they don't, then that's on them. But we have to we have to love ourselves and our people enough.
We got to keep
not
fighting.
give up. It's about love. Love is stronger than hate, and you keep trying. Bubba Phil always says, love is stronger than hate, and you have to meet people where they are.
Yeah.
Preach, BP.
Always.
One thing I've seen lately that gives me encouragement and gives me hope about our community. These youngsters out here.
Yeah.
That's why I tap in with the young people. They figured it out. They went all the way around what we were talking. They figured out NFTs. I learned crypto not from somebody my age, not from somebody older than me. I learned it from a guy in his 20s.
Yeah.
I'm learning about NFTs, I'm getting educated by these youngsters. Hey, that ain't the only route you can go.
Tony, so let me tell you something.
A lot of them have a lot of them have figured out the cheat code. What works for us back in the day may not work for them. Right. As long as they're working and they're interested and they're benefiting from it, it's legal. I say I don't knock them. I try to learn from them. Because like BP, meet them where they are. If they're at a level that they're making just as much money than me or more. Well, how you make that, bro? Explain this to me. Dumb it down to my level so I can understand it.
And there's the
as older as OGs in this, bro, we have a tendency to say, no, my way is the right way. This is the way we should do it. No.
And the crazy joiners, to caveat on that hot tub, every single fight throughout history with us taking that step forward has started
the young
with
people.
The youth. With the
Yeah.
youth.
So
Yeah.
what they're doing now is what they were doing back in the 60s, what they were doing in the late 18th century. They were doing. It was always the youth, right? And like you said, us OGs need to fall back and be like, all right,
but it's black people around the world.
Yep.
Youth.
We can give you direction as far as what to watch out for, but we can learn from you of what's coming up.
Exactly. That's why I'm hoping. I see these
right now,
out here.
Right now, we're looking at the point where young black people are standing in their power, bro.
No question.
And we had our time. BP, you had your time. Rodney Breedy, I've had my time. Hooper, we've had our time. Our only mission now is to stand.
I'm a young man. I still got time left, so I
and how they're moving. We can't sit back and say, no, that's not what you should. You know, we can't stand back and tell them, no, that's not what you should do. Because if that was the case, what we were doing would have worked. It has not. So let's try it their way. Let's get out of the way.
Let me tell you
something. We stand in support of what you're doing as long as you're doing what's right.
Right.
Well, Connie, I say this: just like when me and you came up, our forefathers told us pitfalls along the way. What we got to understand is, yes, we can't tell them what to do, but we can tell them where the pitfalls come. That's our job. Our job. Once we pave this road, we got to tell them where all the tricks and turns are as they go down. We can't drive for them anymore. It's time for us to get in the car and just ride. We need
to be the elders, and we need to act like elders, and give them the wisdom to be able to do what they need to do.
Right.
But at the same time, realizing, like, there's a shirt and a sign that I really cannot stand. A lot of the young people have.
We're not our ancestors.
We're not our ancestors. It annoys me because it makes it seem as if our ancestors weren't doing anything, or that we weren't doing anything.
It makes it seem that our ancestors are weak, which is a lie.
Which is a lie. And it makes it seem as if we were weak.
Yeah.
A lot of what, like, for example, our generation, we were the first to really have a brutality by police caught on video with Rodney King.
True that.
True.
They're not doing anything new. The only thing of it was that the technology changed. So that every phone you have is now a video camera, and this stuff is starting to be caught on video. And it's that moment of, for our parents, our grandparents, great-grandparents, grandparents, TV didn't exist. But for our parents, when it came into the living rooms across America of young people being hosed down and Bull Connor sicking dogs on young people, that technology allowed people to be able to open their eyes a little bit and enable the movement. The technology of the camcorder enabled a little bit more movement because of what happened with Rodney King. Now they have more technology than they ever did. And that is enabling them to, because let's be clear, like Malcolm X always said, he said that racism is like Cadillac. They come out with a new model every year. Now, they're going to have something for every gain that we make. There is a backlash. Always. They're going to have something waiting on these young folks. Yeah. And we should have the wisdom because we knew what they had waiting on us.
The traps, yeah.
And a lot of them don't want to listen to us with regards to that kind of wisdom because too many of them, not all of them, but too many of them seem to have the mentality that we have done nothing and that our parents and grandparents have done nothing for the past 150 years.
Yeah. But you know what? That's how it's just marketed to them that way. And it's sad because they feel that grandma and grandpa did nothing but marching and getting hosed on. They don't see that as a struggle. Like my father-in-law slapped a white man down there in Clarksville, Mississippi. He had to run to Chicago not to get lynched.
Yeah.
Yep.
You know what I mean?
You know what? I'm up here.
That's-
I am up here in Ohio simply because my grandfather tried to, and a few of his friends tried to form a union of cotton pickers in Mississippi, and he had to leave his family and then send money to come back and get them. It's the reason why I'm up here, and it's funny because I name all my guns after Black women gun toters, and one of my friends asked me why my XDM-45 was named Rosa Parks. I said, Rosa Parks carried a gun.
Sure did.
No, she was nonviolent. Oh, no, that sweet old lady, she sat on the bus. And I said, no.
That's a lie. She was a gun toter.
She was a gun. You know, John Lewis was a gun toter. What they said was that they believed in non-violence as a tactic and tool when it came to marching for civil rights, but when it came to their own personal safety,
defend yourself
in trying to protect themselves and walking down the street knowing that they were going to receive death threats, many of your civil rights faves who are hailed as non-violent actually had guns.
Yeah.
If they didn't have guns,
Malcolm X said, I call that, self-defense, I call that common sense.
Yep.
But that's the part that we, and like Rodney Brady said, that his story, same with my family, same with numerous other families. But that's what's not being taught to our young people. And that's a failing that we have. Because we fail to teach them, hey, don't believe this narrative that they say that we was all marching and nonviolent. Because behind every Martin Luther King were the deacons of defense.
Thank you. Yep, exactly.
And
they protected the freedom rights.
That's not even a unique story. That's been with every one of our movements. We've always had a militant aspect that backs up our mostly nonviolent aspect. But we failed, and we fell into the trap of letting those who oppress us teach us. And that was our failure. So that's
do
why.
anybody
That's
know
part
what
of
the
the
first
reason why
Black
they
Panther
have
Party was?
Say again?
Do anybody know where the first Black Panther Party was?
The Oakland, right?
No, it was in Indiana.
No, it was in Lowndes County, Alabama.
Oh wow!
There you go. Oh, that's right.
As a matter of fact, if you remember when they A-trapped Jamil Al-Amin, you remember when they arrested him? They arrested him in Lowndes County, Alabama.
There you go.
Right.
There's why his roots are. So I say that to say that we tend to allow them to put this civil rights movement into a panacea and just a bunch of peace loving and blah blah blah. We shall overcome type Negroes, and that's not what that was.
And again, that goes back to that power to define. You have to define
public
your
relations.
own history and narrative.
Well, it goes back to, as I always say, to the winners goes the spoils.
And you know what? My biggest concern with our young people, a lot of them, not all of them, but a lot of them are caught up in having allies.
Yeah.
And
I'll agree.
Allies are important if they are truly allies. But, for example, when everything really started hitting the fan, I had some white friends who could not understand. Well, number one, I always had guns, but they didn't know it. But they couldn't understand why I really started training and practicing more. And they're anti-gun.
Mm.
And I'm like, okay. And I'm like, but you can feel that way because you're white, because you feel safe. You feel like you're going to be okay.
Mm-hmm.
And some of them don't want to speak to me anymore, which is fine. But we get on these bandwagons of things in the name of trying to build our numbers. And I think that our young people are trying to play this numbers game.
Yes.
And they're playing it with the wrong people and trying to build up their numbers. And they're trying to get allies. And some of the allies that they're picking are suspect.
Yeah.
But that's not relegated to just them. We made those same mistakes as
well.
But it's because we made those mistakes that we're trying to tell them not to do it.
Exactly.
Right.
See, I'm a firm believer in we don't need allies. We need business relationships. Meaning that when you're no longer value to of value up to us, we need to get your ass on out the door. Because that's the same thing they do with our vote. That's the same thing they do with a lot of stuff. Just like in the age of affirmative action, you would see all these quote unquote affirmative action picks to get these contracts, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because it happened all over this country. Um, I I'm in Atlanta, so I always ask the question that people never really speak of Maynard in the same tone of Andy, Martin, John
Yes.
Lewis, and any of the others. But if we had when Coleman Young and all these other black men took over these cities, and if they came in there and played the Maynard Jackson card, it would be mighty. It would be interesting to see where our dynamics nationwide would be as far as these major cities and how we power broke. People always call Atlanta the Blackberry here, blah blah blah. But Atlanta, what they call the Atlanta Milk and Honey, was built off of the fact that Maynard told when they decided to build that damn airport down there, the Hartsfield Jackson International Airport. When he saw that they were going to build it, he basically told them, I quote, there will be tumbleweed going up and down 85 if I don't get 20% of these contracts to all these black builders in this city. And then he in turn took that and he created the Herman Russells. He created the Franklins and all these different quote unquote the Young family, the Bond family, all these black bourgeoisie that runs around this city that we forget about. That was the basis of the wealth of the black community that's sitting here, and but we forget about those.
Because and just the caveat I feel, one thing the Democratic Party has done is they've done an extremely well of a job cleaning up John Lewis's history. The John Lewis that you guys know outside of Atlanta is not the John Lewis that we know. And we don't have the same view of him as you do. Because, and that's with a lot of individuals. He's flawed. And he did not do a lot for Atlanta. So a lot of people like Corey can tell you, we don't hold him up like you guys do. I'm gonna share something with you guys. I'm a Mason. He's a Mason. I know a lot of people in his lodge. And I'm gonna say something to y'all that y'all don't know. It a lot of folks gonna give me black glass about this. John Lewis smoked crack for the better part of 20 years while he was in Congress. John Lewis, all that he says the same thing over and over again. And this is I'm going somewhere with this because it speaks to some of our leadership that we seeing now. This man whole thing, every time you see him, he bringing up I shed blood itself. Okay, but what have you done? That was in 1960. What have you done since then? Look at his voting record. It's right there in Congress.gov. You can look at everything he's ever voted on. Nothing that he voted on benefited his community, his district that he represented. But that's part of when they choose our heroes, when they choose our icons, and we don't have a frame of reference for their history and what they did after those iconic moments. That's where a lot of our young folks lose respect because, like you said, BP, they have no, not BP, Brighton Brick. They do have access to the internet and they look up stuff like that. They're tapped into the street. So when you get a John Lewis that goes downtown Atlanta and on the west side about some dope, oh, they know who sold it to him because he's telling them, "Hey man, this dude y'all holding up. Hey man, I just sold him a pack the other day." So I get with. That's why I don't like to give a lot of flack to our kids and how they move. Is because we failed on a lot of issues. We did. And we got to sit back and be honest about our failures. Now, do we need to guide them as OGs? Of course. BP, I listen to you heavy. You are elder man. You one of my elders. Everything you say, I take in. They listen to what we say, even if they don't show it. Even if they talk shit, they hear. Because I can tell you that because I was one of them.
Yeah, same way.
When my elders, man,
me, I was the same way. Yeah.
You know, I used to tell them all the time, man, I ain't trying to hear that shit. You know, but in the back of my head, I'm listening to everything they say.
Yeah.
So when I got older, I understood. So we can't demonize them because them are our warriors. Yeah. We are not the warriors anymore. We own. If you sitting up on this panel with gray in your beard, you're old. Now,
Hey,
when,
so
when,
you're my
when it
elder.
all goes, no, you're my elder, son. So when it all goes down, we
Than
can't
all
be
of
the
you.
ones just sitting back. And a lot of us get into that we wish for a peaceful death scenario. I just don't want no. We hit that certain age, and I say you, BP, I really admire you. But a lot of our elders, and I can point them out, they get into that mode, man. I just don't want no trouble.
Well, it's
Y'all
usually that's
causing
about
trouble.
once you
I
get
just
to a
don't want
certain
no trouble.
age,
No.
you want to live that long life and peace.
Hold on,
I've never been a proponent of that.
Sorry,
You know?
BP. Hold on one second. Darling
Right.
Ebony, what you said you what? You are elders? All of our elders?
No, I said I'm younger than all of you.
I'm about to say, all right, making sure,
You know, so
No, actually, I'm older than you, Hookah.
Hey, that's all right. That's all right.
By a year.
That's all right. You're not hurting my feelings at this time. Appreciate it.
But we got to get out of that. We got to get out of that. We got a lot of different issues in our community. But one thing we got to get out of is we can't down our youth because that's our future. And at the end, when it all goes down, they're the ones that got to inherit this fight.
And we
True
created
indeed.
the babies. Those are our babies, whether we like it or not. They're our babies. They're privileged. They're spoiled asses are what we created. I mean, honestly, I think sometimes back on, if we go from our grandparents, all they wanted was better for their children. So they push their children to do the best they can. So then they had us. We had it easier in some ways than our parents. So, but when we started having our children, we wanted to give them everything our parents couldn't give us.
No question.
And when we did that, we kind of spoiled them in some ways because we gave them a lot for free versus when, say, the generation before you had your parents had to struggle and give it to you. So we create whatever problem we have with our youth are the problems we created for ourselves.
True.
So that's why I am big. That's why I am big on you can't throw away none of them. You may have. I mean, there may be some of them that won't be here at the end, but you cannot throw them away.
May I jump in? I wanted to respond to Siege's question.
I was about to do that. Hold on one second, Rodney. I was about to do that.
All right.
This right here is going to. This is definitely got to be a part 2. I mean,
okay.
The reason we started with the young brother that was killed on the hunting trip, right?
Murdered.
Hunting trip.
Killed. Murdered.
Just straight
murder.
Lynched. It whatever word we want to put there, we know it wasn't accidental.
But let me jump in real quick.
Oh, wait. What's
Go ahead, brother. Go ahead.
I know it. Got you.
Go ahead.
This question here that Siege put out is going to be answered by all in this panel, to include myself. All right.
Okay.
We touched on a lot of good stuff. We're definitely going to have a part 2. If you guys are interested, we're going to have a part 2, part 3, part 10. We can do a let's talk about it all day. This question right here, Siege, is what are we going to do about it? Rodney, since you are ready to go, you're going to be the first one to answer this question. What are we doing tonight willing to change, to start a change? What are we willing to do to start a change?
I've heard this old adage before, and pardon if you hear any noise. I got a 7-year-old who thinks he's a Star Wars character in the background. It really starts at home, bro. It's an old adage, but it really starts at home, and we got to work on our own, within our own little tribes, because we're all individual tribes within the giant diaspora of blackness in this world. And we really like Hot Tub said earlier, we gotta listen to these kids, man. And I'll give you an example. 10 years ago, my 20-year-old told me about Bitcoin. He's like, yo, dad, go buy Bitcoin for $100. That $100 today would have been $72 million. We gotta listen to these kids, man. Sometimes we're so wrapped up in working and just doing us and providing for them and buying them electronics, and we really aren't working on them and building on their own little foundations. You know, so we really gotta teach some major love and listen to these babies to help build, because if we teach real love, they're going to go out there and treat other Black men and women different, because far too many of our people, when you say pardon me brother or good afternoon sister, everybody's looking at you all crazy. You know, I grew up around 5%ers in New York. I got 5% of family members, and disrespect was not a thing that was okay with. And still to this day, people my age, man, pardon me, brother, excuse me, people are not used to politeness. Also in our own community, everybody's ready to throw hands with each other, but won't do a damn thing if the next person disrespects them. So it's the answer to CJ's question is multifaceted, but I personally feel that we have to work at home base first and teach them babies to spread love and respect and help each other out too.
Okay, so you're at the home. BP, go ahead.
I agree 100%. What my brother just said. You know, it starts with, first of all, knowledge and information. You know, that starts, you know, you on a journey. It's a lifelong journey from beginning to end, from the time you take your first breath to the time you exhale your last. But it starts with you. You have to know who you are, what you represent, what you are willing to do or not do. So if you can't control yourself, you can't control anyone else. You know, I've been on a journey. I've been blessed to be, you know, around some powerful brothers and sisters who have, I think, put me on a path that feels correct for me and where I'm trying to go and what I, you know, feel is important. So I think it starts with that. One of my primary things is being an excellent father. Even though I was a single father for 10 years, you know, it was hard to do. But I raised a 31-year-old daughter who is, I think, on the right path. So the future is bright. I have a 21-year-old daughter who I hope is on the right path. And now I have this 16-year-old who I'm trying to get up and into the community. And hopefully they're able to reach out. It's like a pebble you drop in the water and it spreads. Those vibrations spread. I believe in the universal laws of the universe. You can't do bad and not have it come back to you. Just like you have love, universal love, it spreads. So you start with yourself. You put it in your children. Your children go out to the community. Hopefully the community encourages them to keep on that path. That's how I was raised. That's how my dad raised me. My grandma Sally, all the way back. They put things in me. But so I may not have, as somebody said that before, I may not have clicked at that time. But all of a sudden that voice is in your head. And you're like, who the hell said that? Where'd that come from? So it starts within and it goes without. So we have to take that responsibility seriously. Yes, I would like to be out, you know, doing this and that and the other and have 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 different cars and being, but that's not what a responsible human being does. We have to be good human beings. It's not hard. You know, love is stronger than hate. Treat people like you want to be treated, and, you know, always demand respect, always give respect. You know, so like I said, I'm a lifelong learner. I'm a lifelong warrior. I believe until we get to the grave, yeah, it's all, I may not be able to fight as efficiently. There you go. That's the youth. I may not be able to fight as efficiently as a 20-year-old, but I'm going to do my part, you know, for this battle that we're continually having to fight. So I think it starts with, you know, journeys, knowing ourselves, education, continuing to learn, live, love, and just keep it moving. So that's what I'm willing to do. That's what I've dedicated my life to doing.
Well, for me,
let us know.
For me, and I've been doing this, I've been challenging everyone around me and trying to have the tough conversations that nobody wants to have. We can't continue to sit in a status quo, not talk about things for the sake of comfortability. And so I've been really trying to challenge those around me, have more critical thought, try to encourage more strategic thinking, and not just the superficial, but really trying to delve into, okay, if you're going to do this, what's the trap's door? Look at what the consequences, repercussions, how to move and maneuver through this thing. And I've been doing it with everybody around me and will continue to do so. I think that is the biggest thing. I'm not going to change everybody's mind, but it starts with maybe changing one or two people's minds about things. And I'm talking about within our community. I'm not worried about anybody else. I'm talking about trying to get our minds right. I always focus on our mental health, our emotional health, our thinking and thought processes, and our critical thinking. That is my focus.
No question. Coy.
I'm gonna start like this. The first and the thing that I do believe in that I personally work on and do is I invest in people. I don't really invest in movements. I don't invest in a lot of things, but I invest in people. The other thing that I do that I've been doing for years is I mentor. Not so much now because I got a young man upstairs I'm trying to bring into manhood.
Right.
But I've tried to live a certain standard and be a certain way and be consistent. Because one of the things that we combat every day is our images. So when I meet or deal with our kids, youth, or whatever, young men, and sometimes at work or whatever, I want them to see that this image that they see here is not the image that they see on the media. You know?
Yeah.
And from there, if we can learn to nurture our children, those ones that are forgotten, and support their dreams. I always tell my young man upstairs, I think when he turned 12, I gave him a wristband, and it says "Young, Black, and Gifted." And I always tell him every morning before I leave the house, 5:30 morning, he gets mad because I wake him up and shit. But what are you? And that's when he wakes up. Young, but I won't. But we got to put those seeds into the next generation.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Hot tub.
The issues that we have as a community are multifaceted. So the solutions also going to be multifaceted. I do not advocate that my way is the only way. Black Poindexter, he has his way. Darling Ebony, you have your way. Rodney Gritty, Hookah, Court, everybody has their way. But as long as we can all agree that the solution is Black empowerment and uplifting our people, then we're constantly working towards that. Whatever your way is, if working for you, it's in the betterment of our community, by all means, engage in it. I'm real big on the men taking our rightful place where we once were and where we can be again to uplift our community. Be more active in the youth in your community. You want to stop a lot of the things that we complain about in our youth. It starts with us. Go out there and talk to them, tap in with them. Even if you don't like how they moving or what they're doing, you catch them early enough, you can kind of detour a lot of that bad behavior. So I'm very big in, like Coy say, mentorship. Step out there, talk to them, because we can't throw away our kids. You know, I've raised 5 myself, raised 2 already, the adulthood, got 3 more behind. And I know their friends. I talk to their friends. I talk to the kids around here, around me in my community. But we have to do that on a grand scale. In every community, there should be Black men and women that take that mentorship role of our children. If we can get that and build our communities, and not only build our communities, but we got to reach out to the diaspora. And those in the diaspora have to be willing to listen and get on an agenda that's Black first.
Right.
If we doing all of these things, we're going to be all right. We'll survive the next 200 years.
No question.
You know what, Hookah, before we close, I just want to put that GoFundMe page, the thing that sparked that our conversation tonight in the first place. I'm going to put those 2 GoFundMe pages back up into the chat real quick. And peace and blessings, everybody.
Peace. Don't go anywhere just yet, darling. Or you'll stand fast after we do this, after I end the broadcast, because I really do want to do it. But this was a beautiful live. Shout out to darling Ebony for even bringing this up.
Thank you for that leadership.
This is leadership right here, and that's my thing. Leadership, right? Yeah, I'm the joker that gets drunk and talk a little trash about courses and all that stuff.
In your face.
I like to have a little I like to do that, but I do that for a reason. That's part of there's a little strategy to that.
Blow off a little steam.
Well, that part of it's one, but it's therapy, mental. We have a huge problem with post-traumatic stress that we don't understand.
For real.
So these are one of the things that I try to bring. I bring intelligence. I bring humor. I bring all that so we can not only just for everybody else, but it also helps me because I start internally and I spread it out to everybody else. So my part is therapy.
Yes.
Mental strength. It's not a whole lot, but it's relatively impactful.
Yes.
Right? Because in spite of everything, we ain't all agree. Hot Tub, you're 100% correct. We ain't always going to agree. We're not a monolith.
Thank you.
We're not supposed to agree. Right?
And if we was a monolith, we'd be boring as hell.
It'd be terrible. But with you on that hot tub for sure. We ain't on the same path, but we're going in the same direction. That's forward. All day, every day.
Forwards ever, backwards never.
Exactly. So that's my part in it. And Siege has a part 2 to that question, but we're gonna save for the next one.
That was a good question.
That's a really good question. I told Siege definitely hold that question. Siege, I'm gonna have you come on this joint too.
Yep, in here.
I was a dog Ebony because there was a whole bunch of grown men on here. This sister held it down. She can't be by herself. We need more of you soldiers with us, sisters. We need more soldiers so we can even out this playing field because it ain't just the fellas. We got the sisters alongside us. So we need y'all to come out the chat and come on this panel. We need y'all. You dig what I'm saying?
Yeah.
We need y'all. We are in this fight together 100%.
Side by side.
That's it. And I'm with you, Hot Tub. We'll be straight. We've been through hell. Still going through. We know how to maneuver these roads. Everybody else doesn't, and we see the results of that. We know how to maneuver. We can make $1 out of 15 cents. We've already been there. So we see this stuff. We're just trying to improve for our kids because we passed our time. We are foot in the grave. We got the gray hairs. We got the bad
Speak
knees.
for yourself.
Speak for yourself. I haven't even reached middle age as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah.
Right, I feel you. Understand 100%. I get you. I get you. Do the electric slide, you feel your back fall out that day. I ain't gonna say nothing. The electric slides, you already dating yourself, but that's okay.
I'm gonna have a skating party for my 50th.
Thing for sure is that we can't stop loving each other.
And this goes out to Darling Ebony, Carbon Q, Shikati, Siege.
Yes.
Understand that we may not always get right by y'all, but we still love y'all fiercely.
We still love y'all. Even though y'all get on our nerves, yo.
just don't give up on us yet. We gonna get it right.
We gonna get it right. It take time to get through this stress. This is a 400+ year battle. You know, we got.
It's not longer.
You know what I mean? So
crazy.
So we got a lot of work to do, and thank God we got people on this joint like a Darling Ebony, like a BP, like a Rodney, like a Hot Tub, like a Coy, like a Siege, True Butter. We got some people. We got some monsters in this game that could really steer us straight. We got some leaders. We just gotta push forward. That's it. I'm learning just as much, man. I couldn't be any more happier with the people that look like me, that I look at every day, knowing that we're pushing this thing forward.
Beautiful thing.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, with that being said, I appreciate everybody in the chat. I need my panel to stand by just for a few minutes after work. I know we all get tired. I see people yawning and eyes is getting heavy. I probably ain't ate yet because I'm tired of eating. I guess I'll eat. But I appreciate everybody in the chat. I love y'all, man. Y'all are beautiful. I'm glad you stuck around. Part 2 is definitely going to happen because this is good conversation that we need to have. It's painful, it's uncomfortable, but it's necessary.
Facts.
Necessary conversations. And with that, this is Gunner Hookah here. I appreciate it. We had a good time. Let's talk about it. It was with Darling Ebony. Shout out to
Thank you, Darling Ebony.
And all the brothers came through. Let's talk about it part 2, maybe. Somebody else, you never know, but the panel ain't gonna change because you know if you got something, you got some stuff to talk about. You know I'm gonna put that link out there because I love having these conversations and these dialogues. Until then, y'all have a good night. Y'all be safe. Y'all stay warm. Y'all make sure y'all stay away from the plague, whatever you need to do. Need y'all to fight. Need y'all. Be safe. Go to the hookah. Out.
Peace.